Chapter 781. 2 full days pass. An unfathomable amount of high noble vibrations are distorting the sea of corruption. What used to be a dark, silent, and motionless cold ocean has turned into one full of raging waves and a unique radiation that will make any first-class or below lord that comes within 1 million kilometers feel as though their grasp on the system is being suppressed. These waves bursting out from the sea peak when two incredible life forms overcome their limits. An ancient wyvern with a celestial-grade physique finally had the intricate seals lifted from its body that have been acting as a pseudo-avatar, binding his very soul to a lower-class life form's limits. At the same time, the process of digesting, understanding, and lifting such a complex seal, filled with millions of fractal-like encryptions and failsafes to kill the manipulator and the seal holder if it is ever tampered with, brings my level of complex system understanding to an instinctual and practical degree I've never even conceptualized as possible. Completing such a task under the suppression in the depths of the deepest point in the sea of corruption only forces my mind and body to work in new ways that are far too abstract for my human mind to normally comprehend. In my astral form, while using the full capacity of my noble vibrations and borrowing large amounts of stat points from over 100 trillion living beings in the lower realm, there is a moment in time where I can feel every single intricate seal while also feeling every single noble vibration over the last 12,000 years that it has suppressed. The water stone that Seraphel consumed before I began this process did exactly as he said, linking with his unique physique. One that makes his entire greater form turn into a light blue mass of pure water soul energy. It does not affect the seal's suppression on his noble vibrations, but it makes him momentarily incapable of being hurt by my aura or physical attacks. Anything I throw at him flows through like water, reforming his mind, body, and soul back into its original state and allowing me to use trial and error on the seals without any fear. Though it only stays malleable like this for the first few hours, I had to learn quickly and be meticulous to pull this off. Seraphel falls into a deep sleep, and I lock into a flow state of vast understandings to improve with every movement I perform. Every single trick I have is used, foresight, extreme precision with mana and divine energy manipulation, true core abilities, and even variations of my offensive perks like swordsmanship, to use in abstract ways in order to find threads to pick complex locks within each encryption. My divine craftsmanship is extremely helpful as well, opening up hundreds of thousands of windows with step-by-step guides on how to dismantle and rebuild seals with whatever my imagination can fathom. Over the last 3 times I had to reteach myself noble vibrations from scratch. I always got a very good grasp on them by the time the next stage of training came. However, now I'm finally able to flourish using these instincts and knowledge gained so far, to push these understandings further than ever before. Seal after seal is dismantled and broken, like a sharp knife in my mind cutting through millions of ropes tying this wyvern down for millennia. The path of nobility becomes far more clear in my mind as the frequency of my vibrations becomes more and more adept at using them exactly for a complex craft like this one. The fewer seals that remain, the less malleable they become as the perks of the Waterstone are wearing off. To make things even worse, I can feel another unnatural resistance building up within the wyvern. It is another natural phenomenon of the seals. If they ever were dwindled down to this point, they would only become more complex, harder to crack, and far more dangerous for both parties involved. These last few hours are what make or break this entire procedure. Hours later, the violent high noble radiation that pours off from the sea is more than enough proof that this final breakthrough was a success. It is even more telling that the waves of radiation coming from the sea are 100% Seraphel's. For the last few days, the waves coming out have been almost entirely mine. So, as a single humanoid figure emerges from the sea of corruption, it is quite the eerie sight. Seraphel's horrific waves of high noble vibrations do not stop, as he is still far below within the deepest ravine, attempting to stabilize his power as he is in an unstable and dangerous state. It would be a disaster if he tried to emerge from the sea now. Myself, on the other hand, am not borrowing a single stat from my links of loyalty, nor am I even using my noble form any longer. I am simply in my unaided human form, just shy of 2 meters tall. A slight grin is plastered across my face, and a gleam of deep understanding is vibrant in my eyes. It all finally clicked. The moment I broke Seraphel's last seal and freed him from his fate, what it means to be a high noble, and it wasn't at all what I expected. Now, if one with the same new depth of knowledge that I have were to look at my body, they would be very intrigued with what I've done. Instead of letting my own power flourish, I've taken the raw energy and intricate patterns of the seals off of Seraphel's body and created a one-time use limiter for myself. It is comprised of 3 layers of millions of seals, placed on my demon's core, soul energy core, and divine core. My low-quality ether pool, which has now surpassed 110 million, is also slightly sealed by the 3rd most complex layer. This is not for me to be held back for my own good. I would not hurt myself like Seraphel if he was let loose in an unsuppressed state. It is so I do not hurt others. I still have quite a lot of business to take care of in Ellipsia, and can't go destroying the Citadel by accident just from taking a wrong step. While I could perform a temporary suppression technique without these seals, I also did not want the beautiful, complex machines I worked so hard to understand and disassemble to go to waste. In fact, altering them and improving them further consolidated my confidence that whoever created these seals is no unsurpassable god like I first believed after all. I float upward above the green divine clouds and make my way back to Ellipsia while sending a simple message down to my generals in the lower realm. Prepare yourselves to ascend. I will be ready to begin the fast travel activation in a few hours. Then, I peacefully float back through the ether command surveillance bubble like a ghost. Even with all of these seals on, and no noble vibrations to better understand my surroundings, manipulating these tiny and simple structures is nothing to me. I want to let out a laugh when I finally float down to touch the welcome point on the Citadel, where I should have checked in the day I came here from the upper realm. I lift a finger and edit some of the entrance and visual flight records while wisps of white ether trickle off my pointer finger in the air. An automatic ding sounds in my head, as unknowingly, I've just mimicked the same thing Ember did when he first arrived on Ellipsia. Welcome, new lord. Race, human. Worlds claimed, 1. Classification, 5th class. Fast travel to nearest human embassy. Free. Fast travel to your selected location. A fake identity is formed as I link one of my 5th class worlds to this rudimentary system and mimic the ether commands and flows of a normal avatar using little to no brain power. It feels like second nature, playing with such boring simple machines. However, once I do, all of the fast travel lanes and Citadel perks start to become clear to me as I enter it as any new 5th class human lord would. Putting on a show, with wide eyes and a craned neck up at the massive green towers, I send a pulse of ether through the entire floating structure in the sky. I turn right, but a copy of myself appears as though it's turning left in the surveillance systems. I disappear from the Citadel's view while the ghost-like copy of myself begins to build an alibi for when the next monthly update of Citadel surveillance is sent in. The first stop I make is to the central tower, not wasting any time to begin reassessing my four-sided ascension chamber one more time with my new knowledge. I float around the tower, making minor tweaks and reinforcing very tiny, intricate places where the blood bonds between Luminite and the sample from the lower realm could be tighter to make a more flawless jump to higher floors once conditions are met. It would not be something I could even see before, but now it seems like such a simple find. More ether is injected into the higher floors and spread out evenly between divine threads. They were so compact before, at over 200x the outside density, that it was hard to simultaneously keep track of the ether particle count between threads in every single structure before. Yet now it is such a simple fix. About 80 more tiny fixes like this are completed all over the structure. While none of them were really necessary, making things as perfect as possible can never hurt. Rucker, please meet me in the usual spot. I've returned after 3 days. Are my new worlds ready? Yes, of course. I'm on my way, sir. This interaction goes by quickly as I wait on the top floor of the central tower to move to the private trading room again to receive the worlds from my most trusted demonic servant. A total of 107,032 worlds are transferred to me, raising my world token to 401,584. At roughly the same 5th to 4th to 3rd class world ratios as the last pool, it is clear something has changed here. It is barely half of what I gained before. Roughly 50 trillion links of loyalty add to my mental pool to pull from, Yet there is no massive rise in potential power like last time. It's just about a 30% gain. I infer exactly what has happened here and turn to Rucker. The markets are not as full of supply with worlds to buy, and many lords must have caught on that the demonic servants find value in these kinds of worlds. So, the average price of these lower quality worlds has risen. Am I right? The servant bows his head. That is right. I am sorry for. I cut him off and still transfer 1 million more low-quality ether back. It is fine. It was bound to happen. I told you to spend it all and you did as asked. Do it again. We both leave the top floor of the tower moments later, and I am a bit confused about the intense fear rippling off the servant. He did not once mention my new appearance and just acted natural, but was mentally full of far more stress than usual. I send him a mental message while he flies downward. Just another week. I'll fulfill my promise to grant you all new avatars to resemble your true selves and live in the upper realm as you wish. There is no need to fear me. I'm no demon. Understood, sir. That is all that comes back as I turn to set my sights on the high orc tower near the edge of the citadel. It is glowing bright with 5 energy signals in my enhanced ether sense. One is Ember in his human form, while the other 4 are unique avatars without the markings, limitations, or natural bindings found on every other avatar I've seen in this place. Looks like everyone has made progress of their own while I've been busy. I whisper to myself while floating over. Meanwhile, in the lower realm, a demonic force of many first-class true core demons leave the massive cloud of demonic energy that cloaks the true location of their home. They are headed to a neutral star system to meet with a powerful force that owns the Great Belt of Brimia. There is no ulterior motive to this mission. They are merely on their way to make contact and request access to pass through this star sector in order to retrieve data on an old world they lost. It is a personal request from their demon lord as devout soldiers of the Morvale family. It should be a very simple task at that, as Alvaron is known to not choose sides. Everything can be bargained for at a reasonable price. Chapter 782. I float over to the high orc tower and open up the ceiling unannounced. The only head in the room that turns my way while I'm editing the ether commands to make an opening in the tower is Ember, but as I float down on the opposite side of the long dark room and close the ceiling, everyone else in the room turns to notice me as well. Ava is the next to make eye contact with me, as her instincts pull her gaze my way, along with a much deeper link between us. She is my general, after all. My eyes focus on her as well, quickly analyzing the new avatar she's wearing. It certainly accentuates her mature goblin queen physique with much greater clarity. There isn't a hint of artificial suppression left, and I can see the perfect tethering of her ether pools lining her eyes as well as the countless green divine threads flowing from the true core in her chest. It's like the basic grade avatar she had on before only showed a pixelated and limited view of her true potential and soul. Now, it's as though I'm viewing a high-definition model that moves with far more fluidity and purpose. The small cracks that showed while she was training her ether sense, and most recently when I saw it during her rank up from a hobgoblin, are a drop in the bucket compared to the potency of clear power and potential. My gaze sweeps across the room to see Asik and Torvak, as their avatars are upgraded significantly as well. They have the same unsuppressed divine thread count and free-flowing ether about them. However, when my eyes fall back on Ava, she has a strange glow about her that I can't exactly put my finger on. It feels like my third seal, which is holding back the more advanced parts of my ether senses, is limiting my ability to see what this is. She speaks up as I touch down on the floor. Jay, you're back. And in your normal form. Asik blinks a few times, and Torvak is visibly surprised as well. Neither of them has seen me like this before, but my small human form isn't what leaves them in such a state. I can tell they're extremely thrown off by the fact that I just snuck up on them like a ghost. Not only did I fool the Citadel's sensors, but even the senses of these 2 ancient first-class lords. The feelings of Rucker, the demonic servant, flash back in my mind, as maybe the fact that I gave off no radiation or presence at all was enough to scare him like that. So, in response to these stares, less than 1/10 of a second later I alter my energy output. A small amount of ether, light mana control, and a normal level of green divine threads begin giving off the radiation that a basic-grade avatar would. The fact that I'm faking this makes the two warlords' eyes widen even more, but I just smile and calmly respond to Ava's remark. Indeed, I need to keep myself suppressed for the time being. You, on the other hand, have experienced quite the upgrade. My pupils dilate as I continue to examine the intricacies of her avatar as best I can in my current state, soon turning back to the two warlords that made it. Good work. My gaze then moves past them and to the berserker near the back wall of the room, who is lying down in a transparent pod with his eyes closed. He appears to be in a peaceful sleep, but I can feel another strange aura, just like Ava's, that I cannot fully analyze. However, this one does not feel sweet and inviting. It is filled with rage and danger. Ember catches my eye movements and speaks up, changing the subject. Last time I saw you, you were struggling to stay in one piece in your noble form even with that divine limiter paired with borrowed power. Now, you're in your weakest form and using a celestial grade seal to hold yourself back. I'd say that means your training with Seraphel ended in a success? Did he survive it? The expression on the red-haired dragon's face in his human form is one of complete nonchalance. He even looks entertained, with a gleam of mischief in his eyes that have far more meaning behind them now. Looking at my soul-bonded partner in the face now feels quite odd. Memories of fighting together on the human world come rushing back to me while I stare at him in his deep crimson eyes. The being behind those same eyes saved my life many times before, but the grin that shows a few teeth at the corner of his mouth gives me a tinge of unease. He's never actually been honest with me about his goals or his purpose here. For all our time together, he's played the role of a clueless and new-to-the-world dragon, with varying histories that shift and conveniently tell just enough to make sense in the moment. He always has the answer to a problem, an artifact that helps when it is needed most, or a new way of training to reach the next necessary level. All of the warlords have very similar experiences with him, even after tens of thousands of years and many meetings through countless past lives. Even Seraphel, over hundreds of thousands of years, seems to have been helped many times but opened up to me and told me he still does not know this dragon's motives. With these thoughts rushing through my mind, I hesitate to reply for a few tenths of a second longer than usual, but it only makes the crack of a grin on his face grow more. Indeed, it was a success. Once these seals are removed, I will have the capabilities of a high noble, and Seraphel, he is still adjusting to his new freedom. My eyes move all over Ember's body, and I realize that he is using extremely advanced ether commands, just like I am, to create a false identity and a fake connection to the Citadel as though he is using an avatar. The others in the room are unregistered, classified as illegals through Citadel system commands when I scan them, but Ember registers as a normal 5th-class human lord, just like me. The inner golden and silver light in his chest is unable to be sensed at all, and the same goes for my inner secrets, as my demon's core is completely hidden and sealed away. It appears as though I am an average human with no true core and only simple access to mana and basic-grade ether commands. He nods at me with approval. Good disguise. I can see your seals, but barely. I doubt even a high noble will be able to see them. In this form, I'm having trouble sensing the presence of that third one myself. Thanks, I reply, deciding right now isn't the time to bring up my concerns. I then scan the room again and speak to everyone. For those of you that haven't seen me in this form before, yes, I really am a human, and this is, in fact, my body from the lower realm. Soon, we will be welcoming 4 more from my world here to the upper realm and attempting to conserve their true forms just like mine. I pause and turn my gaze to Asik and Torvak. Oh, and one other thing. I need another craft done. Well, almost 10,000 of them, actually. The initial shock of my return in this strange, sealed human form wears off, and I can discuss my updated version of the plan with these warlords and get confirmation that my demonic servants can get their avatars created easily. Meanwhile, the 4 generals in the lower realm that are being discussed prepare for their ascension after receiving confirmation from me on my way over to the Citadel. 2 days have passed since they all arrived. Bree has taken full advantage of the entire Great Belt of Brimia, using as many teleport platforms as she can to move from market to market on all 40 worlds in the ring multiple times over. While it is not as fast-paced and lucrative as using the worldwide connectivity system, these are still business connections and new markets to exploit. None of the commanders or generals use any of their borrowed stats on their private asteroids, as the facilities therein cannot withstand such stress. Monk decides to leave and get his master and the Saint's insight on the artifacts to gain a better understanding of what they all mean. A majority do not hold ether, and even more are written in texts no one can decipher. Fisher and Lydia follow Monk, as they must return to their posts as pillars of the Crimson Army, protectors of the human world. Ari and Luna reconnect briefly, but the young woman who is bonded with the mental power of a beholder only woke up because of the emergency alarms Alvaron sent into her resting room on the moon base that no longer exists. She goes back into closed-door cultivation and recovery on a far more secure base here on Brimia. Ari decides to explore the ring, and Raven goes with him. Neither of them can benefit any further from cultivating yellow threads, so they take these 2 days off to relax, try exotic foods, and enjoy entertainment around the Ring of Worlds. Abby, however, stays within her private suite. Now that she has left the Wyvern's home world, and it's been destroyed, more memories from the staff she carries with her are appearing in her mind. When Kelfer was destroyed, she felt its connection with her inheritance become altered as well. The soul of that planet has been changed, no longer strongly linked with the Wyvern's fate. However, a great relief has been lifted from her psychologically that she didn't know was holding her captive and suppressed. The black roots that were devouring this planet were holding back her soul weapon as well. It feels free with far more potential and the ability to choose its own new destiny now. These are all the feelings Abby gets as she stares at the soul weapon that feels as though it has a metaphorical heart that beats in perfect rhythm with hers. However, the path and directions on how exactly she can do such a thing are still extremely foggy in her mind. When not staring at the amplifier with wide eyes, she examines the frozen battle of wyverns and demons that still rests in her item storage deep within her mind. Doing so triggers images of that very war to continue flashing into her psyche like they were always there. She begins to see through the eyes of many of the wyverns that fought that day, and even further back in time, hundreds of thousands of years, all the way back to when Kelfer was first linked to the system and the wyverns of that flourishing world awakened. She sees through the eyes of a blue wyvern on this world that ruled a massive sea. It was right where the desert was when she claimed this inheritance. These memories further back are choppy and blurry, but the longer she meditates and focuses, the more clear some of them begin to appear. Meanwhile, Maria has been completely asleep. For a true core of this strength, sleeping more than an hour or so every few months is considered excessive. Though her body and mind just produced and consumed more power than 100 true-cored humans might ever use in their entire lives, all in less than a few seconds to complete the bond with a soul-imbued source resin from a noble-grade world. At the words in her inner ear from the upper realm, this is enough to wake her from her peaceful slumber and stare up at the stars again. Her bones, muscles, and mind feeling as good as new thanks to 48 hours in a rejuvenation chamber specially designed by Alvaron. Her soul energy core has shrunk back down to a calm state, and her true core has settled nicely deep inside it. This ice mage consumed 6 full first-class worlds worth of mana, chi, and divine energy resources just on autopilot while sleeping. While all of the generals receive this ping, a powerful army of true core demons arrives on the far side of the belt of planets. They arrive only 3 worlds away from an auction house where Bree is scouring for deals, and just 5 worlds away in the opposite direction from Ari and Raven at the most extravagant VR fighting simulator in the system. It allows them to use exosuits to simulate up to level 1000 mana control levels and choose from a wide range of skills to go on simulated missions, dungeon runs, and fight boss monsters. While far below their skill levels, it is entertaining and informative to watch other races complete similar quests and compete in local leaderboards to pass the time. Though, the 4 generals all stop what they're doing and turn their gaze toward the planet these demons have arrived on, as a slight taboo of the Great Belt of Brimia was just broken. The feeling of a weak wave of visual perception sweeps through all 40 planets and all of the asteroids, and it doesn't come from Alvaron's internal systems. It's clear a new foreign visitor has just illegally scanned this entire neutral star system with a very advanced piece of technology. Chapter 783. While catching up with the warlords, I can't help but question one thing about their illegal avatars. Why haven't you just connected these to the Citadel? It wouldn't limit their command freedom at all. I think about the fact that there was no way I could have contemplated such a complex craft just a few days ago. However, the inner workings of these avatars look advanced enough to handle settings like this without altering any of their current features. Torvak laughs, and Asik shakes his head to reply. Well, that would be impossible. We would have to manipulate the entire Citadel's command base at once. My expertise is on what's in front of me. I can't handle such a large-scale craft. I raise an eyebrow and realize again that the memories of Andres Vermilion are aiding my complex understanding of this Citadel further. And even ancient first-class lords like this cannot spread their ether senses as far as I can or with as much accuracy and speed. Well, in order to move forward, I'll finish the job. With a few swift movements of my right hand and my gaze moving back and forth from the two warlords to the Goblin Queen beside them, I start adding complex ether commands that tether to the outside of their avatars. Nothing physically changes, but new options connected to the Citadel pop up in the systems, linking them to all of the fast travel routes and trading commands. Options to edit their outward-facing homeworld and to disable all access to the Citadel, returning to their unaided illegal freedom forms, are available as well. I turn my hand toward Zacian, but before I take a step forward, Ember stops me. Oh, I'll link him once he wakes up. Altering him in any way right now wouldn't be a good idea. I nod and turn back to the two warlords. I even added a cloaking feature, so if you walk outside, the surveillance systems won't detect you at all. It will be as if an invisible ghost is moving through the streets. Though other lords will still be able to see you. Asik nods calmly. We will be able to stay out of sight of those that could recognize us until the time is right to reveal the truth. I thank you again. Torvak looks down at his hands, still in awe as he examines the edits to his system. Yes, very good. And those avatars for the servants. We'll get on that now. Ember waves them off, but when I ask if he'd like to come welcome the generals to the upper realm, he declines, determined to stay behind in the High Orc Tower longer. I believe right now, if you wish to keep your seals on, I'll be the only one capable of handling Zacian safely if he wakes up in a bad mood. Very well, Ava and I will do the honors then. The Goblin Queen and I float up out of the ceiling and leave in the opposite direction the warlords took, on our way to the central tower. At the same time, for sets of eyes all turn toward the main long-distance transport terminal planet on the Great Belt of Brimia. It was just a surface layer scan that registered their physical appearances, divine core level, and refinement quality of their soul energy cores. The scanner is imbued with a large amount of low-quality ether and a very intricate mana-based dispersion array, moving through the entire system so quickly that it almost goes unnoticed. A communications channel between these four generals and Alvaron is immediately established, as none of them want to destroy this system by accident if they don't have to. But they will not be confined by the rules here if they are under attack. The persona of a Silver Knight immediately responds, sending them a live feed visual of the perpetrators of this disturbance. I will show you the source of your disturbance in privacy, but please do not act rashly. This is not one of those new Vermilion forces. They do not fight without reason, and I have a complicated relationship with them. They've only broken one of the minor rules here to get my attention quicker. I do not believe they meant to directly antagonize you. The imagery of 24 first-class true core demons standing in the middle of a massive teleportation hall appears. 5 of them standing in front of the others, fully saturated cores glowing with power. One stands front and center, over 10 meters tall, with jaded eyes and a small black box between his palms that glows with a faint white light, visible only to those who have awakened ether senses. Its eyes barely move once Alvaron appears before it in his silver suit of armor and speaks aloud. One of the Morvale's old attack forces. I welcome you all back to the Great Belt of Brimia, but I cannot allow you to break one of our minor rules like that without consciousness. The privacy of my guests is very important. The entire room begins to glow with teleportation magic, as countless pre-built security arrays activate, designed to eject criminals from public areas. Every one of these demons is strong enough to withstand the arrays and fast enough to leave before they're transported away. but none of them move a muscle, and their leader shows a slight grin. The next scene that appears in the minds of the generals is these demons appearing in a new room, quite far away, on a small orbiting asteroid within this same solar system, yet distant from the belt where all the planets are locked together. If one were to look toward the red star, it would hardly appear larger than the others in the sky. It just barely has enough gravity to keep this small prison, used to interrogate aggressors in orbit yet far away from the public. None of the demons look concerned or surprised at their predicament, and the strongest-looking one opens up a small purple and black rift in front of himself, letting the box that scanned the base fall in, and speaks up. "Well, I knew that would certainly get us a meeting fast. Good to see you too, Alvaron. It seems you're still as sharp as ever." The knight uses common demon mannerisms and nods while responding. "Of course. Helix was your name. Helix Morvale, am I right? Just know that you have no privacy here. You're being monitored, and this information is being shared, as it seems you have no respect for my rules either." The eyes of the demon in question sharpen. "Indeed. Do you have a new business partner? Or a buyer already lined up that wants my information after feeling the scan? A client that rivals the forces of a great family? I know that in the past you would have at least offered me the chance to buy my privacy. What has changed?" The generals all watch with open eyes, as in mere seconds, this demon has already figured out the entire situation on its own. Alvaron is mildly concerned, as the creature does not want to get on the bad side of either of these forces that clearly have animosity toward each other. The great families are not to be messed with directly, and this new rising emperor has the potential in Alvaron's mind to be even more terrifying, at least here in the lower realm. It has deduced quite a few possibilities of what this abrupt appearance could be about, but answers tactically to please both sides. Yes, one could say a new client, but their matters are their own. If they wish to speak to you, they will make that clear. There is a pause, and through the system spectate link, Raven is the first to speak. "We were closest to that burst. Whoever they are, they definitely know how powerful we are. Abnormal for humans, but I highly doubt this will directly link us back to our home world, or Jay in any way." Maria comments right after. "I don't know. It seems like this isn't a usual appearance. Something isn't adding up. I say we don't let them go until we have those scans deleted at the very least." Abby's eyes are wide, as memories are triggered in the back of her mind from the mention of that demon family's name. She had never heard it before now, yet the moment it's mentioned, it sounds familiar. The visuals of these memories are blurry and pretty much impossible to make out, but the feelings associated with them are hatred and fear. "I don't know why, but I think we should have nothing to do with them. My soul weapon is telling me to fear them. The sooner they leave, the better," she murmurs. Ari stares at the visual feed and comments back to Alvaron last. "Let's just hear out what they want. We can always be the ones to leave first." Alvaron replies to the demon after this consensus. "So, what is it that you've come here for? What would you like to buy or sell? If you are here to declare another war, I would strongly suggest against that. It would not be profitable for either side given the strength of our current forces." Helix laughs. "No, I do not wish to start another war this far away from the source. I agree it would not be profitable. I just wish to survey one of the planets my forces lost to you in the last war 30,000 years back. It is far too deep in your territory for our forces to slip in unnoticed. So I'm offering to pay for a single scan. We do not even need to descend down to the world. A view from one moon is more than enough. Name your price for a quick trip to the Kelfer star system." Chapter 784. Ava and I begin to make our way back to the central tower in the Ellipsia Citadel. While floating through the air, I use a light magic perk mixed with my stealth skill to create a reflective bubble around us, ensuring we remain unseen. In my demon lord form, floating around using the proper airways and ether commands for travel wouldn't be out of the ordinary. However, a random lord seeing a human and a goblin queen entering the central tower in this manner could spark unwanted rumors. Editing the surveillance system to make it seem as though I'm invisible is easy enough, but editing people's memories is a skill I do not possess. Ava speaks up now that we're alone and slowly making our way to the tower. 4.1 million low-quality ether. That's what I managed to farm after all of the slaves received their worlds back and ether to live on, plus the full-term contracts for the plot owners were paid out fully. I nod with an impressed look on my face. Not bad. Keep it all. I can tell a deep pool is enhancing your ether sense a lot. My own ether senses are still analyzing her avatar, trying to make sense of the warm and inviting aura radiating from her. Now that I'm aware of it, combined with Ember's warning that I'd have to undo my seals to take care of Zacian, and the similarities of the feeling I'm getting from the two of them, it only makes me more curious. However, my curiosity is cut short when I receive a message from 4 generals all at once from the lower realm. It wasn't going to be long before I sent my own message down to have them prepare the necessary mana from Bree to use our fast travel Rising Emperor perk. I even mentioned that I would notify them again when I was ready. So, a message from them all at once is slightly unexpected and concerning. I immediately accept the incoming spectate feeds. Maria's voice echoes in my ears as a visual of 24 true core demons conversing with an empty suit of armor fills my vision. We have a slight situation on our hands. Abby's voice follows immediately after. Do you know of a Morvale family from the upper realm? Do you have any idea why they would be interested in us? Or you? My attention sharpens, the mention of this family name resonating deeply from my recent talks with Seraphel, and coming up a few times in both Draco and Andres Vermillion's memories. While the grunts of the great families don't interact much and only follow orders from their family heads, I have heard of this family name before. I have heard of them, but I do not know how or why they would have any issue with you or me yet. I try to rack my brain for ideas, but I'm certain my cover is still perfect. There must be more details that I'm unaware of. There is a brief silence on the line, but Raven pulls Bree into the spectate call, and she floods my trading inbox with all of the data from the last few days, complete with full analysis from her and Alvaron. She includes the raw data files for me to do my own analysis if I wish. My eyes widen as I take in the data and watch the beautiful explosion of 5 moons nearly the size of the human world, followed by the complete destruction of Kelfer as it was turned into Maria's sole weapon. Although many sensors and close-up imaging devices were destroyed in the blast, I can piece together the extra details and paint a mental picture of how it happened. Even the live recordings of this spectate conference, capturing the words of these demons and how they scan Brimia, are transmitted as well. I take a few moments to process this new information, but the scene inside the slowly orbiting prison continues to unfold as Alvaron responds to the demon's question about the price of a trip to Kelfer. I managed to move my territory boundaries out a few star systems, but you know very well you took nearly 10 times that away from me. Plus, over 100 of the worlds I managed to take back were already infected by your demonic plague. I had to siphon the energy out of those worlds in a matter of years, barely managing to keep half of their energy. Now you come here asking to scan a world I still can't even extract resources from because of your blood transfusion testing? If I even have an offer for you, it's not going to be cheap. The demon smiles, but it is clearly a performance. He knows Alvaron isn't truly irritated with him. This is part of the negotiation. If anything, he believes Alvaron is stalling for some reason. Helix, the strongest first-class demon in this task force, replies with a nod. Yes, name your price, and I want to go now. Our Lord Morvale wishes for a quick reply. I didn't cause a scene just to be interrogated. Maybe you have changed, Alvaron. Maybe the Lord was right. There is a disturbance in the lower realm, and this is all connected. I absorb all the data from the last few days and begin cross-referencing it with the brief history of the great families that Seraphel mentioned to me. It dawns on me that Maria's breakthrough must have triggered some kind of reaction from the owner of the throne. My perception of the human world still feels as if I'm standing right where the throne is, able to feel every action with perfect clarity. That is, only if I choose to focus on it. I can assume that this world was claimed by the Morvale family long ago, as this demon mentioned losing it in a territory war with Alvaron over 30,000 years ago. The Vermilion family wasn't even founded then. With this information, it's impossible to know if the Morvale family witnessed everything that occurred on Kelfer and is now bluffing to reach my generals, or if they are genuinely clueless and seeking more information. I don't even know if this is standard protocol or if somehow all of this is connected to the appearance of a new noble demon in the upper realm. This family head must have been notified by the death of Andras, and could be setting up a sophisticated trap. The room falls silent as I contemplate my next words. I could be overcomplicating things and covering tracks that were never followed in the first place. However, I still wish to take a safe approach, unwilling to underestimate my enemy. Do not directly engage if you do not have to. Do not even attempt to retrieve that sensor. We do not know what they are capable of or how much they already know. However, one thing must be done. You cannot allow them to reach the Kelfer system until my plan here in the upper realm is already in motion. I need you to find a way to stall them for at least 8 days, one that will keep them there even once you ascend. An instant response comes back, and to my surprise, it is not from any of the generals. It is from the Silver Knight. A pleasure to meet you, Rising Emperor. While I believed it would be under simpler circumstances, what better way to understand someone than meeting them in a high-stakes situation? 8 days of stalling can be arranged, but it will require some assistance on your end. I require the help of your generals immediately, 2 of your commanders for the full 8 days, and a negotiable deal to purchase low-quality ether from the upper realm on a regular basis. Even though Alvaron has technically sworn loyalty to me through acquiring one of its worlds in the upper realm, there is something off-putting about it. There are no true emotions coming through the link. Every one of its words feels like imitations of what it has observed other humans doing. All of the recordings throughout the last few days and even months back on the moon bases give me the same strange feeling that I'm speaking to a robot that wears many masks. But now isn't the time to analyze this further. It's clear in every interaction that this machine is hardwired to create profit, make allies, and gain knowledge. It would have offered the demons a number right away if it didn't think I had something better to give. Deal, I reply, as I watch the facial expression of the demon grow impatient. Less than 1/100th of a second later, intricate details are sent to the generals, and they exchange transport crystals while Alvaron responds to the demon's request. Just a quick trip? To the moon base I've established there, for you to use that scanner and come right back. I'll make it happen for 5-star systems near the Voltic Spiral sector. Minimum quality for Divine Thread and Ether count is 3rd class, with at least one world left with 20% of its mana stores and population in each system. Do this, and you'll get in and out safely without any problems. The demon's eyes narrow. He knows this is an outrageous demand, but he also recognizes that he has come unannounced with an urgent matter to an old enemy. Even considering the circumstances, it is still high for just a scan. However, their lord has already waited long enough for them to escape the demonic realm's protection cloud and acquire the necessary transport crystals to get here. So, without any hesitation in the demon's voice, he replies, "Deal. We'll have it done right away." He turns to one of his fellow saturated true cores beside him, and the 9-meter-tall archdemon opens a bright purple system panel, pulling up holographic imagery of star systems matching Alvaron's criteria. This all occurs in mere seconds, but it is more than enough time for the 4 generals to surround the outside of the asteroid prison using the maintenance teleport platforms on its outer edges. It appears to be a massive gray rock, about half the size of the human world's moon, with an incredibly dense black structure containing 5 layers of shielding, similar to the walls found in the cultivation chambers where these generals compressed their cores and bonded with their soul weapons. Maria and Abby borrow my stealth skill, while Ari and Raven use their own, vanishing into the darkness of space as they arrive, monitoring the response to Alvaron's next words. Very good. I will gladly accept these star systems, right after you all serve your sentence for committing a mid-level crime on the Great Belt of Brimia. This is purely business. You know better than to flaunt your power with me this far from the source. Rules are rules, and I cannot have words spreading that it's acceptable to break them. The pressure of divine threads in the room intensifies, as this demon did not expect such a response. Helix was uncertain why he was tasked to investigate this system. He initially believed it to be a random occurrence of demonic beasts fighting and damaging their leftover artifacts and security failsafes. However, now he is certain that something significant has happened, altering their lord's plans, and that Alvaron and this new mysterious client are involved and responsible, we shall face the punishment for breaking these rules, whatever is necessary to maintain your public perception. But I hope you do not forget that we allow you to live as a privilege. This is not a polite request. It is an order from our family head. Bright yellow threads begin to glow from the demon's chest, and an aura of darkness fills the room. Alvaron replies calmly, "Unfortunately, whatever this urgent matter may be, you still must follow my rules on neutral territory. I cannot let a potential threat to my visitors roam freely until your intentions are made clear. I'm happy to finalize our deal once you've completed your punishment." Helix grits his teeth and opens a dark rift in space before him, replying, "I suppose we'll have to do this the hard way then." At these words, for intense bursts of energy erupt outside the prison. Even with the hundreds of kilometers of dense artifact-class walls blocking the demons from perceiving the outside world, the release of 4% of borrowed stats by each general cracks through the walls and sends a ripple of fear through the demons' minds. Suddenly, strange arrays begin activating that weren't there before, and the escape rift forming in front of Helix starts to shrink away. Their visions tint green, and an overwhelming cold pressure like nothing they've ever felt before surrounds them and dulls their senses. All 24 first-class demons shiver in fear, unable to pinpoint who or what the threat encircling them is. Chapter 785. What is the meaning of this? Alvaron, you do not get to make fools of us. The 5 great families own this galaxy. Allowing you to maintain control over your sectors out here is a privilege. I demand you turn off these suppression arrays. You and this new client of yours are as good as dead if you do not comply right now. Helix squeezes this threat out through gritted teeth, staring straight at the Silver Knight as his true core grows in luminosity, and the aura of his first-class bloodline, starting to unseal, surges through the room. I think about a response, but Alvaron is much faster than me in a reply, sending one to me first. I've witnessed power from your generals that certainly stands against forces like the 5 great families in the lower realm. If they do follow through with these threats, do I have your backing as an ally in any future war that comes of this? I grin through our link. Of course, your help in giving my generals an optimal environment to break through to their highest potential has certainly cemented you as an ally. An attack on your forces is an attack on mine. The Silver Knight then replies to the demon's threat as the room continues to grow colder, and the rift in front of him is fully suppressed enough to disappear. A threat on me? And my new clients? After you have broken the laws in a neutral zone and refused to take immediate punishment for it? I cannot continue doing business with someone who lies and does not respect the rules that we have set in the past. If you break them now without any remorse, how can I trust your word on anything else? The demon's eyes look far more confused than any other emotion, as it makes no sense why Alvaron would say such a thing. Even if this creature has managed to gain countless new worlds, multiplying the monster's influence tenfold, it wouldn't stand a chance against even their first-class forces. Deploying noble demons would not even be necessary against the strongest foreign forces like Alvaron out in these far-out sectors. The natural strength gap between demons and lower races is far too large. The sole reason they don't take over every world by force is that it would cost more energy to come out here than they would gain in draining these worlds. The demons' words are true. The fact that they are still thriving out here is pure chance and privilege. Only 30,000 years have passed since their last disagreement that resulted in a war, and the demons know Alvaron cannot afford another one like that. So, the creature's actions are purely illogical. The Silver Knight's armor set looks as though it's powering down, unwilling to engage any further, and this makes Helix feel a tinge of fear. A strong opponent he can deal with, but an illogical or unpredictable one. That is a true enemy to be scared of. Outside the asteroid prison, the 4 generals follow a set of instructions with smiles across their faces, especially after hearing the threats on them indirectly from the demons within this prison. The overwhelming cold feeling that could be felt from within was the activation of Maria's 3rd ranked-up buff, making a massive royal blue soul energy form appear above the prison. She does not even bother to let her angel wings sprout from her back, nor does she need to take out her soul weapon. The task at hand will be easy enough just using her ice magic. Abby follows her lead, activating her third ranked-up buff on the other side of the asteroid and pulling out her staff to amplify her range. A green aura envelopes the entire asteroid and pierces through the prison base with ease, tinting everyone's vision green. Thousands of spirit arms come out from Ares' back, and they begin creating dense light purple arrows made of demonic soul energy. He lets them rest in place while circling the asteroid base and creating more and more, evenly surrounding the entire floating rock in an array of demonic soul energy. It is imbued with large amounts of low-quality ether and has lingering noble essence from the soul bond with his bow not too long ago. Large amounts of bright purple soul energy create thick barriers, like a ball of light held together by floating arrows. This creates a strange energy field around the prison, not allowing lesser demons to use their bloodline traits or rift perks to escape from the suppression array created. Raven slips into her stealth dimension and flies right through the walls of protection, going deep into enemy territory, crashing the meeting between the 24 demons and the Silver Knight that just shut off its connection to the base. She is far too fast and powerful for these first-class demons to see. After taking down one of the kings of Kelphur, who was artificially mutated to possess the strength of a noble demon in its unsealed form, the bugs before her do not even register as a threat. They are merely messengers, tools used by their family heads and leaders to spread fear through the lower-class worlds. Even with such a powerful backing, disregarding rules and disrespecting business partners is quite unnecessary. Though killing insects like these is unnecessary too. So, Raven allows a single finger out from her stealth barrier while circling the room and breaks 48 legs in less than a tenth of a second. The force from the attack sends ripples of her own mana control boosted by 4% of over 200 trillion system user stats. But most importantly, it sends horrific shock through the demon souls as they're all pushed downward by an invisible force. The simultaneously gruesome cracking sounds are followed by 24 demons falling to their knees in front of the deactivated Silver Knight. Raven slips out through the walls of the base again in her stealth dimension while Abby and Maria carry out the final stage of their attack. A bright blue cubic outline around the asteroid starts to form as Maria raises her arms. The cold aura within the demon's prison worsens extremely fast. Then, the cubic outline that Maria has created starts to fill in with dark blue ice. At the same time, Abby's staff activates a new set of glyphs, while she pushes her True Core's restoration ability to a new level that she's never tried before. While this cube around the floating block is filled with ice, it is also filled with pure restoration magic tethering within Maria's soul energy. The two of them swap out their borrowed stealth skills for divine craftsmanship and set conditions and failsafes within the icy prison. As Raven leaves the freeze zone, the purple demonic orb structured with arrows around the prison is engulfed in blue and green light. The inside of the prison grows so cold that many of the true cores behind their saturated leaders lose feeling in their bodies and seem to be frozen in time. Blue ice floods in through the cracks in the walls, and it comes from every direction. There is nowhere they can run or hide. Helix still wears a determined look on his face, even as his 4 strongest subordinates are frozen solid around him. He too is engulfed in the ice prison, along with the Silver Knight statue in front of him. Alvaron turns the link between them back on moments before the entire room turns to ice. Once your sentence is served, we may resume our deal. The knight is frozen, and the connection is lost again. But Helix still shows a resolute grin while his body freezes. This is because he opens up his system panel and sends a single emergency message back to the demonic realm through a pathway that does not use normal means, unfazed by Ares' demonic suppression array. It reports the situation they're in, but also mentions the appearance of a berserker that carries the aura of the Scarlet Clan. The Morvale family is far older and more resilient than many know, and even a leader of their first-class attack forces should not be underestimated. Even though it appears that Helix's forces were completely dominated, he smelled the scent of a berserker that shared a common ancestor to the corpse being tested on back on Kelphur. Even as he's engulfed in ice, the smirk across his face as the message is sent is his last laugh, showing Alvaron that he's found the clue he was looking for anyway. While the aura he felt is accurate, the fact that Helix believes a berserker race is this mysterious new client linked to Kelphur has unintentionally spread misinformation back to the demonic realm. The cube of restoration-infused soul energy ice with a spherical demonic seal in its center is complete. It surrounds the entire asteroid, now making it appear as a massive ice cube orbiting around Brimia. The 4 generals all deactivate their buffs and float around the craft they've built together. Maria is the first to speak. It will automatically begin to thaw in 8 days. Nothing is breaking through, that's for sure. Abby nods. They won't die either. While they may be in shock or mentally damaged a small amount, their physical forms will be preserved, even if the ice fractures. Ari grins, with a million questions rushing through his mind behind focused white eyes. That was the first time I've ever felt such a strange resonance with demons. The ones on Kelfer didn't have the same pull. They were fakes. With these demons, it was like I could feel each one of their cores and could counteract their bloodlines being unsealed. I don't know how else to explain it. Raven reappears and speaks directly to me. I did what you asked. Their leader managed to see me for a moment. I felt his gaze. I reply back, just as Ava and I arrive in front of the central tower in the upper realm. Good. I'm glad this matter was taken care of now. To say the very least, things are still a bit delicate up here. I then turn to Bree in our mental feed while pulling up the fast travel perk within my Rising Emperor's domain and skim through its interface. Any one of the Rising Emperor's 5 generals may use this fast travel perk one time every 24 hours. This ability allows the users to take the fastest route of travel from their current position to a mutually agreed upon position within 100 meters of the Rising Emperor. Choose travel type. 1. Deposit mana. Default pre-activated. 2. Create demonic energy. Travel type. Admin activation necessary for general use. 3. Create ether. Travel type. Admin activation necessary for general use. I select option 1, feeling my surroundings all become valid transport points, and send visuals of what I'm seeing through the spectate feed for Bree to transfer the necessary mana to each of the generals so they can pay on their ends. It fluctuates a lot, but the average cost per general is roughly the entirety of the mana stores on an average 4th-class world. This was quite pricey the first time I looked at the cost a few weeks ago, but now, these profits are made every few minutes thanks to Bree's control of the market. I turn to Ava and leave the reflective orb we're standing in, leaving her to stand at the base of the tower. I'll be right back. Then phase through the walls of the tower with ease using advanced ether commands. I move forward to position myself in the center of the central tower so that my 100-meter range for each general fits into a corner of each of their selected bottom floors of this 4-part ascension chamber. Then I speak directly to the generals. I believe there's no better time than now. Are you all ready to ascend to the upper realm? Chapter 786. As I ask if my generals are ready to ascend, a visual of Alvaron's consciousness comes back online, viewing us from Brimia as all transmission points of the prison are now frozen and cut off from the rest of space. However, there is far more than one satellite orbiting around the Great Belt of Brimia and its star. They have their own transmission routers and surveillance arrays that can capture the scene taking place from an outsider's perspective. This is shared through the link to everyone watching. Bree adds the 4 commanders that are currently on the human world to the call as well, but they do not speak. Alvaron does not say a word about these added displays, and I don't make another mention of it either, as given the monster's history, it clearly wants to record as much data as possible from the event that is about to take place. The generals reply in unison to break the silence. We're ready. For stable points in the center of the central tower are selected on my end, and a request for a mana transfer on each of them is transmitted through our system link. Ari, Abby, Maria, and Raven all use the mana transferred to them from Bree to pay for the request. The instant they do, the fast travel panel lights up, ready for both ends to initiate a mutual agreement to complete the system command. All 4 mental agreements are accepted at once, and a powerful sensation surges through me. I feel 8 distinct points in space flash in my mind. 4 of them are all around me, in the corners of each of the bottom floors of this tower. The other 4 are down in the lower realm. While I have access to over 400,000 worlds and can sense their presence quite well, this sensation feels very different. Even the human world, in which I have the most in-depth connection through the throne, I can really only sense what is on the world. Its exact position in space is a total mystery to me. Even with some of the planets I own being within the same star systems, the only reason I know this is because of the forums and discussions within the worldwide connectivity system. My perception of each world is limited to the system users on it. My spatial awareness is lacking, to say the very least. Up until right now, the only thing I really understood about the upper realm is that it is certainly above the lower realm. But I never fully comprehended what this meant. There is no true up or down in the vastness of space, but seeing where I stand now as above always instinctually made sense to me. Now, as an instant connection from exactly where I stand down to this lower realm is formed, a physical pathway within my mind appears that opens my eyes to what the split between realms really is. From the general's perspective, only dense light pink pure mana surrounds them in small orbs. It looks very similar to my mana crystallization skill, though it stays in a liquid form and is packed so densely that any interference with space around them is negated. Red divine threads tether the mana together at first, but as it gets denser and denser, the threads compress as well, turning orange, then yellow, and finally, once the 4 orbs consolidate, they all shimmer green. Nothing from the outside can push through, and even as the generals touch the inside of their orbs, no reaction or radiation comes back on them. It is very similar to the ether orbs used in fast travel between points here in the Citadel. However, there is an added barrier of pure mana and dense divine threads that act similar to the purple ring that protected me in my first days here in the upper realm. To the observers on the outside watching this scene, the 4 orbs of light disappear in a blip, only leaving behind trace amounts of mana and divine threads. These threads quickly unravel the second the orbs are gone, spreading out to turn yellow, then orange, and back to red before their density becomes negligible and disappears from discerning eyes into the vacuum of space. It truly appears as though they disappeared into thin air, like each of them used a teleport crystal. However, I may be the only one capable of perceiving what is really happening. All 4 of the orbs just shift through a direction in space that isn't normally used. Coincidentally, 2 of the generals that are being shifted upward through this space have already been using similar techniques for a while now, just on a smaller scale. Raven's use of a stealth dimension is the simplest example. When she slips into a pocket dimension of her own that cannot interact with the rest of space around her, she is not actually ceasing to exist. Raven's true core ability has allowed her to shift in a different direction than reality around her. The same can be said for Abby's immortal form. While there is far more happening within her body and mind that cannot be explained using a simple shift in direction, there are parts of her body that apply to these same rules. She is able to hide her vitals and physical form in a space that is unaffected by attacks that would usually be lethal in a base reality setting. Though this can only be pushed so far. For example, when Maria was compressing her true core and bonding with Kelfer's soul, the shockwave of ice soul energy was so powerful that it managed to tether to the remaining particles of her existence and tear through the shift in space that hid her true form, making Abby feel cold even though she should be theoretically protected. With this being said, the upward movement of the generals is not exactly a true explanation, but it is extremely close to the truth. I'm the only one who watches all 4 orbs of light phase through what looks like a glossy white film around the top of the lower realm. Below it, hundreds of billions of star systems all exist in the vast galaxy. And above, in the upper realm, I exist now in what feels like compressed space. It is like a massive pocket dimension that is wrapped on top of the entire galaxy. With my new breakthroughs in noble vibrations and complex understandings of large-scale crafts, I'm having epiphany after epiphany watching this all play out. It's as though I'm unraveling the truths of the most complex craft I've ever seen. It is both enlightening to see that this is what I've been existing in all along, but equally horrifying to understand that there may be far more layers than just this above me. I feel as though if I had enough power at my fingertips, I could tear open space in front of me and step down into the lower realm right now. Vice versa as well, if I were in the lower realm and compressed enough energy in the right place, a tear could occur that connects both spaces. It makes the function of thrones so much more clear to me, as they are merely doing what I am seeing happen here in real time. My mind begins to work out even more oddities like how this ranked up buff, the Rising Emperor's domain, has the ability to transfer data and even materials through the trading system without having to create such a complex breach. The fact that it has a built-in feature that acts just like a throne, and also the power ranking system of knights, commanders, and generals just like the 5 great families, eats away at the back of my mind as I try to figure this out further. I can chalk things up to just being another mutation to suit my environment, but I get the feeling there is more that Ember has kept hidden from me. His crimson eyes and toothy grin he flashed me before I left lead me to believe there are far more things connected here than just coincidences. While everything seems a bit too perfect, there is one thing that certainly isn't. This fast travel feature allows my generals to be transported from wherever they were to where I am in the fastest path of least resistance. That doesn't mean they're teleported straight toward me. When they shifted upward through the film separating realms, they burst into the dense green clouds into a landing point just like I did the day I arrived here. While the Brimia system is a similar distance away from the source as the human world, it is enough sectors in space away to make the contact point up here in the upper realm different. The 4 generals all surface near one of the Mensa Citadel's transfer points. Normally, they would ride the ether transfer route for a normal check-in, but the 4 orbs of light leave the normal fast travel trails and burst through the sky toward Ellipsia. The data of this strange event is registered and sent to the Mensa Citadel, as it just forcefully lost 4 unidentifiable Lord Cargos. However, my current senses that are strictly held between the generals cannot sense this transfer of data. I can't even see or sense the Mensa Citadel at all. The only thing I do know is that these orbs are coming straight my way, and extremely fast, while their current ETA is still a few minutes, as they need to travel millions of kilometers through the upper realm. I realize a large problem I may be facing. The monitored vitals of my generals within the orbs are steady, as if they still haven't moved a muscle from the lower realm. Their heartbeats are consistent, and they're focused on staying still as I instructed. The fact that the air density inside these orbs hasn't changed, and they're plowing through dense clouds of divine threads, means these orbs are truly made of solid matter, strong enough to destroy anything in their path. I'm not sure if they're going to stop or dodge the enormous rows of towers in this citadel. I can't move, as the range of their travel points is locked in place around me until the exchange is complete. However, I do have the ability to manipulate the citadel around me with endless ether commands at my fingertips still. While I do not have extreme control over every aspect of Ellipsia, in total domination like in my noble and astral form, I still have almost 110 million low-quality ether in my mental pool and the intricate patterns of citadel-wide manipulation thanks to Andres Vermillion's memories. So, I don't waste any time and borrow a single-digit % of stats from all my links, then place a hand on the ground in the center of the citadel. This should be enough. Closing my eyes, I send a pulse of ether commands in a straight line directly pointed at where the orbs of mana and divine threads are coming toward me. Simultaneously editing a massive portion of the citadel-wide surveillance systems, I carve out a path. It looks like a massive laser beam just pierced through dozens of enormous towers. In reality, thousands of kilometers worth of infrastructure splits itself in half and rigidly shift apart in an instant. The citadel ground moves below like tectonic plates, as the only way to avoid a potential collision is to make sure there is nothing in the way. A new temporary street is formed, leading straight to the central tower. Chapter 787. As the generals disappear from the lower realm, all of Alvaron's orbiting arrays and surveillance systems watch every moment of it. They track how fast the generals disappear, the density of the mana and divine threads that formed and were used, the process in which the unstable green threads left behind collapsed back to their natural, less dense states, and lastly calculated the direction in which they shifted with as much accuracy as possible. Of course, using normal means, this shift between realms is impossible. To create such a flawless and large-scale shift, one would need to have a personal connection to the source, claiming a planet that is already connected, which triggers their welcome into the upper realm. Or a forced ascension using a throne fueled by silver threads. Alvaron has witnessed these 2 normal ascension types in the past from a distance before, though he has never seen beings that have not claimed worlds or used external technology from the demons ever do such a thing. From deep within the ice prison where 24 demons are frozen solid, a final last-ditch effort pulses outward from Helix, the leader of this attack squad. After sending a warning about a berserker race to the demonic realm, He also allows for the advanced tech that scanned Brimia to fall out from a microscopic rift inside his own brain that is rapidly freezing. This takes place after the seal on the cubic prison is made, as his entire body is frozen, yet small portions of his mind are still resisting the cold. In a final act of defiance, a scan of his surroundings is pulsed outward. It doesn't make it far, but it registers the fluctuations in space where the generals used to be. This information is transmitted back into the black cube that rests inside of the demon, but his mind is already frozen, just like the other 23 demons. He cannot manipulate or send this information anywhere, as he is not conscious to do so. This pulse was too weak and non-intrusive, as it doesn't scan any living beings, so not even Alvaron sensed its presence. This is clear by the Silver Knight and Bree celebrating a success while watching the data from the strange event they just witnessed replay over and over again in front of them. Neither can explain how it worked or what exactly the mechanism that fuels the Rising Emperor's domain really is. I do not pay attention to their conversation. My concerns are far more focused on the 4 bright orbs of light rocketing through the upper realm toward the Ellipsia Citadel. Hundreds of thousands of lords in the Citadel are instantly affected as I tear their towers in two. Many of these towers are businesses, homes, and public spaces. The larger towers closer to the center of the Citadel hold mostly second- and third-class lords, while the smaller districts further out hold tens of times more fourth- and fifth-class lords. Though, compared to my speed and control over the Citadel, they are all at my mercy, even with 3 seals holding back immense levels of my power. I trigger small, ether-imbued fast travel orbs to activate almost 500,000 short-distance rides at once. Instead of falling to the Citadel's new road, hundreds of thousands of bright white orbs form all throughout the sky, safely transporting many lords that were present in the center of the towers that I split apart. While a very low percentage of these lords actually needed saving, I still have over a week to keep the facade of a regular functioning Citadel running. Even if only a handful were weak enough and fell to their deaths or suffered fractured avatars, it's not something I want to worry about. There are some screams and frightened lords, but I immediately send over 8,000 pulses of telepathy out to my demonic servants, instructing them to calm anyone that sends in reports of this oddity. Tell them it is a routine automated maintenance system, and things will be back to normal in a few minutes. Compensate businesses or any lords that were somehow hurt in the split. It isn't very urgent in my mind. The process is working hundreds of times faster than many lords here. Many that have ascended to the upper realm at below level 1000. So, the few minutes I need to clear the way before impact seem as though I'm planning far ahead. But from an outside view, it appears I'm cutting it close. As servants scramble to calm the citizens, the last of the fast travel orbs clear, some lords still try to conceptualize their situation as they look over the edge of the split buildings therein now showing a completely open wall that leads down to the empty street where the other half of a room was moments ago. I don't really care. In fact, the absurd sight is kind of funny to me. The only thing I spend my true mental power on is the 4 green orbs that show up in my mind as the white flashes of light clear the way. My pulse of ether that manipulated the Citadel does not stop at the outer rings of towers. It continues to fly forward through the bubble of ether commands that create surveillance systems around all of Ellipsia. In my mind, it looks like an arrow parting white silky clouds, though in reality visually nothing is changing. I am merely taking control of a long and narrow portion of the ether bubble and manipulating it to not register any new additions to the Citadel. I know what it did to me when it couldn't detect a valid world token, dropping me into the exile zones. So I can't have the pre-built Citadel system interact with these orbs at all. They finally come within range, and surprisingly, long green and pink tails of divine threads and mana trail behind each of the orbs. I could visualize how densely packed these contraptions were in my mind when they left the lower realm, but once they actually plunge into the surveillance bubble, I can actually try to dissect and understand them. To my surprise, as the orbs rocket through the surveillance bubble, nothing out of the ordinary makes up these spheres holding my generals. They seem to truly only be made of mana. Even the green divine threads tethering them together are no stronger than average. Their density is hardly double the pressure of the green clouds they soar above. However, a strange link pulls me to each orb, urging me to look deeper. Something else is tethering them together, something that allowed them to shift through realms, Yet, my third seal holds my advanced ether senses and full noble vibration analysis back, not allowing me to understand it fully. Though, with my Foresight True Core still passively activated in the background, I can perfectly predict these orbs' flight paths and their rate of decay by tracking the trails of mana behind them. They're set to use up all of the energy siphoned into them just as they arrive here around me. It only takes a matter of seconds for them to fly through the translucent white bubble and rocket through the 10-kilometer-wide empty street I've created in the Citadel. The 4 orbs slightly shift their paths the moment they're about to hit the tower's base, and in this moment, I take hold of the entire ascension chamber to edit its walls. The noble vibrations I used to form this tower leak out for a moment, and the dense layers of ether within the walls seep out as well. This is different from myself just phasing through the structure. I need to allow foreign objects in while keeping the incredibly dense atmosphere out. I can't manage it without some small interference, in this sealed form at least. So, as the 4 generals stop moving an equal distance away from me on each side of this tower, the opening to the outside is closed off again. Though, the echoes of old noble vibrations imbued many days ago create a shockwave, leading to a momentary Citadel-wide blackout. Many lords get flashbacks to the day this new demon became their lord, as millions lose access to their systems temporarily. This doesn't make calming the citizens down any easier for the demonic servants when systems come back online seconds later, as this does not feel like a routine maintenance procedure. Inside the tower, for dense balls of mana and divine threads completely unravel. The generals, whose senses were completely cut off from the outside, can now feel their environments again. They're full of dense, low-quality ether and mana, though Ares' chamber is filled with demonic energy instead. On this lowest first floor of the 1,000-floor ascension chamber, there is little to no divine threads. It is almost entirely pure energy and ether. The remaining green threads from their orbs even manage to unravel and decompress into yellow threads to fill up the space they stand in. There are 3 bright true cores burning in my vision from Ahri, Raven, and Abby. Maria's is protected behind her dark soul energy core. It is quite an odd sight to see yellow threads and yellow cores like this up here in the upper realm. However, just 1 floor above them, I know that the pressure begins to increase, and they will be exposed to their first dose of green threads. None of them can physically see each other, but they can see what I see through my spectate perk that is still active, which gives a visual of all 4 of them from my center position in the tower, and the in-depth visuals of the 999 floors above each of them. All eyes turn to me as I smile and turn around in a circle, looking my generals in the eyes. Welcome to the upper realm. As you can see, I've done my part, but to truly assimilate to the elements up here, all of you have a long way to go. Chapter 788. While standing in the center of the tower, using advanced ether commands to stay within the walls, I turn my gaze around in a circle to take in their true appearances. I put up my purple barrier, and suppress all of my ether and mana control so that I can take a small lap around the center of the room to personally welcome each general eye to eye. The visualizations from the lower realm were one thing, but opening my eyes and perceiving the real thing is far more awe-inspiring. Raven stands rigid, yet aware, as though she's still in battle. Her physical appearance has not changed much since the last time I saw her. The only difference is her true core being far larger and luminous. A hot aura resonates from the outside of her body that feels very similar to Zashin's when he was sleeping. Ahri, on the other hand, looks far more mature than when I last saw him come out from the abyss on the human world to help fight in the war for the throne. He's begun using divine energy, consolidated a saturated true core, and even ranked up a 3rd time since I last saw him. He's grown almost a full 10 centimeters, and his eyes shine white with a faint ether glow even when none of his buffs are active. His skin is smoother, hair darker, and the strength and maturity of thousands of demonic beasts seem to be emanating off of him. This archer gives off the presence of a demon, but another aura is mixed in that makes him feel similar to Raven and Zashin, though it feels older, wiser, and more strange. Memories of the surveillance footage where he bonded with the bow of an ancient elf that was turned into a lich and experimented on by noble demons come to mind. But even as I filter the memories of the 2 vermilion demons in the back of my mind, none of them have ever come into contact with elves, or know anything about them. Not a single one is present on the Ellipsia Citadel, and the only mention of them other than that was Seraphel's history lesson mentioning that there was an overseer before the Wyverns that was an elf. Though, considering the fact that once the system ruler falls to another race, no more planets holding their spawn ever connect to the system again, the appearance of an elf is even more strange. My eyes turn to Abby next. Her green eyes and hair shimmer far more vibrantly than I've ever seen before. Other than that, her physical appearance looks very similar to what she looked like before compressing her true core and ranking up again. However, her soul energy and the strength emanating from her being have undeniably grown. I remember Ember sparring with her in the desert before I claimed the throne, as he was trying to push her immortal healer's form to a new level. Even once they were done, and she could stack up against his full dragon form's blows, he did not look satisfied. There were data reports of her odd cultivation methods within the moon base, and her withstanding the destruction of Kelfer and its moons. However, now I truly begin to understand why. Her physique is not normal. Not at all. Only one other time have I sensed anything like this before, and it was not long ago. Beneath the pressure of the sea of corruption, when I broke the last seal keeping Seraphel's true body and high noble vibrations bound, a celestial-grade physique showed its full power to me. While it was thousands of kilometers under a blanket of corrupted protection, it was still an awe-inspiring sight. Without witnessing its existence, conceptualizing rules of reality unfolding in front of me, my own high noble breakthrough never would have manifested. I never would have been able to reverse-engineer the seals around my own body that allow me to stand in the same room with my teammates from the lower realm. There is a sense of confidence and wisdom that comes off Abby, and I know that countless years of memories have given her that look in her eyes. None of that was mentioned in depth in the data packets or reports that Bree filed, but if anyone would know that feeling, it's me. I want to open my mouth to ask what she's seen, but my attention cannot be torn away from the main attraction in the Ascension Chamber any longer. A pair of icy blue eyes meet mine. Maria has changed after her rank up and breakthrough too, and out of everyone, it is definitely the most noticeable. Her aura gives off a cold pressure that simultaneously feels as though it wants to freeze the world around it in ice and never let it go, but at the same time, is warm and inviting. Her soul energy core is an alluring anomaly. Looking at it with my own eyes is far more intriguing than the simple stats and recordings from analysis equipment that Alvaron had to offer. I get the urge to walk toward her, to see where this bottomless abyss really goes. It is just as all of the reports say. It feels as though I'm staring into a dark abyss, but the color is certainly not black. It's blue, but so densely packed my mind can't comprehend it. It feels equally powerful, like the bottomless abyss stores power inside it that could flow out forever. Though my stares deep into her chest unknowingly catch the sight of a few other things that have matured during her time away. Her skin looks flawless like smooth ice, and her curves have become far more pronounced, symmetrical, and more perfect than I ever believed possible. I blink, and an unexpected flash of old memories comes rushing back to me. I see myself fighting alongside her in the Dark Continent, and our time back working in the Association, and even the first time I ever saw her. When I move my gaze up again and look into her bright blue eyes, they're the same eyes I saw across the hall at my old apartment before she was even an awakened hunter. The hundreds of thousands of years of memories I've made my own and the horrific training I've gone through these last few weeks to survive and become strong enough to welcome my generals here without any risk have unknowingly hardened a shield over my mind. So much so, that during my last stages of training, the sensation of pain was lost to me. Though this self-induced numbing of the senses melts away all of a sudden, to let forgotten emotions through. Beautiful! Escapes my lips before I even know what I'm saying. A translucent aura seeps out of her at the same time, with refracting rainbow lights shimmering in the light of this cultivation chamber. As soon as my eyes see it, I'm struck with another emotion: confusion. There are no energy waves coming off this aura, and its coloring and consistency look extremely similar to the data shown for what Alvaron called source resin, found in the core of planets connected to the system. I assumed it would be like her soul energy core, and my trained eyes could understand it better. But I don't even get the hunch that releasing my third seal would do me any good in understanding what I see right now. All of the generals respond to my words of welcome at the same time. "We made it," from Raven. "How does this tower work?" Ari asks as he begins to walk around in a small circle. There is so much energy to absorb. From Abby as she raises her arms to feel the dense ether and mana in the air, ready to be absorbed to fuel their soul energy cores. Then Maria's response comes last while we still both stare at each other. "Beautiful?" Her face tints a shade of pink, but my moment of awe has passed, as the simultaneous responses from the other generals shift the mood. She opens up an item storage portal beside herself and lets a pristine crystal sword emerge, which only makes the source resin aura around her more visible and dazzling. Maria swings it back and forth a few times, leaving small trails of glimmering reflective aura behind, then lets go of the blade to allow it to rotate around her. "Yes, it is quite beautiful, isn't it?" Her icy cold expression and unreadable face returns, clearly deflecting my comment and changing the subject. However, at such close range, with my purple barrier in full use right now, I'm registering a flurry of emotions I wasn't expecting to confront at a time like this. "It is." I nod, then look away. As soon as my eyes leave her aura, the mental shielding returns, slowing my heartbeat and allowing me to reply to the other generals. "Indeed, to properly assimilate to the elements up here, doing so with your soul weapon from the first floor up would be wise." A staff, a bow, and 2 long swords are pulled out from item storage by the other generals as I continue to speak. As this reunion begins, parts in the lower realm begin to shift into place as well. The 4 commanders who witnessed this shift between realms in the presence of Bree and Alvaron on the group spectate feature have goals of their own to carry out. Fisher and Lydia work out an 8-day contract with Alvaron, as they are the strongest forces remaining under the rising emperor left behind. The 2 of them agree to stay on Brimia in special cultivation chambers for the time being. They will simultaneously work their way to true cores themselves while keeping an eye on the prison of demons on the asteroid in case they break out. Luna is still being treated in a private room, and her condition is still not getting better. However, Alvaron has sent out a long-range transmission to an allied force a few dozen star sectors away. This transmission is going to a first-class monster that is, in fact, a link of loyalty and could receive instant messaging but tends to keep to itself and tend to its small collection of remaining worlds. Though it did make itself known to Bree and the generals once in the first Galactic Trade Commission meeting. A request for that very same beholder to check on Luna's condition has been sent out and is awaiting a response. In the meantime, Bree brokers deals for even more of the cultivation chambers on Brimia to be used in rotation. She herself wants to continue her cultivation toward a true core, but also wishes to have her brother Rodrigo catch up to her level. In their time away these last months, Rodrigo has taken full control of the Hunters Association, dungeon maintenance, and allocation of resources back on the human world. While he's been given access to a labyrinth to level up and is one of the strongest hunters in the entire world, the galaxy is vast, and he needs divine energy to keep up. The entire Crimson Army shall begin their red core cultivation in shifts on Brimia as well, leaving over 75% on the human world at all times to maintain order. Just as Bree is signing the final documents with Alvaron to schedule time slots and ensure that he will get a good end of the deal too, an unexpected ping in her ear sounds. It's from a demon that she hasn't talked to in months since she left it with containment cases full of mana and divine fragments. Pluto was tasked to only contact her again when he is strong enough to begin an infiltration mission specially ordered from the Rising Emperor. Chapter 789. The auras of the soul weapons my generals pull out from their item storages all give off extremely strong and strange vibrations that I can't understand. Well, other than Maria's, which I cannot even sense. The ones that do give off readable energy waves all have a tint of noble vibrations laced into them, but at the same time, feel unique and different from my own or any of the noble demons I've felt with similar power. With the seals blocking me from using my own vibrations to analyze them, it makes things tough, and the fact that they are all still yellow core makes this even tougher. While they may have been impossible to match in strength in the lower realm, capable of bringing first-class worlds to their knees, the jump from yellow to green is still massive. There are plenty of lords on this citadel with enough power to match them as they are now. We only have 8 days left before the Vermilion family becomes suspect too. as this is when I'm scheduled to meet the family head and have my avatar recalibrated to link to the 5 great families. My generals are in no position to help me yet. So, I push these thoughts to the back of my head and begin to explain how this ascension chamber works. Each of them walks to the center of their bottom rooms, and I make small-scale tweaks to the atmosphere as my presence here does change the structure of this craft. Though, after a thorough explanation and reanalysis on my part to make sure the blood-bonded luminite triggers are still stable in all 4,000 chambers, they all begin a long process of their next stage in training. All 4 generals sit in the center of their rooms and begin cycling the energy in the air through their bodies. Once every room is drained, they will teleport upward, and by the final floor they will have gained 2.5 million low-quality ether each and consolidated their green cores. Good luck, and use every resource you have available to you. My self-regeneration skill, plunderer, mana manipulation, borrowed stats, everything. What you're attempting to do now is not the natural state of progression. Lords do not keep their bodies in the upper realm, not even the strongest demons. So, to beat the odds and break the normal rules of reality up here, you will need to be creative in your own rights to figure out how to do so. I've built the infrastructure, and trust me, it can handle whatever you throw at it. Finish your ascension. I smile as I get nods of approval and understanding from everyone, and I walk out of the central tower the same way I came in to see Ava still waiting for me behind a protective orb of light magic and ether. There was a small amount of doubt in my mind a few weeks ago that they would be able to mutate and adapt their bodies to assimilate to the pressure up here, but seeing how much they've already changed and grown, that doubt has completely left me. They'll succeed. The fact that I'm certain they will is the very point that twists my facial expression and keeps me silent as I float up the tower with Ava next to me. With a few hand movements while we rise upward, the massive split in the citadel shifts back together. A few thousand fast travel orbs are summoned, as curious lords wander onto the empty street, but for the most part, they stayed inside as these few minutes passed. A light thud brings the citadel back together, deleting the temporary street I made, and leaving everyone involved in this stunt far more confused as the demonic servants continue to explain the situation. Ava and I make it to the top of the central tower, and instead of going inside where all of the private rooms are, we float higher to stop on the roof. It's flat, shimmers green, and is the highest structure in the entire city. I can control the ether commands with ease up here, and no other lords have a possible vantage point of seeing us up here, so I let the reflective orb disappear so we can overlook the city. My expression is stern and focused, yet the goblin queen that takes in the beauty of the citadel around us takes a seat on the edge of the central tower with a thin smile across her face. Even sitting, her torso is taller than my entire human form. After a few seconds of silence, she speaks with a low and curious tone. Seems like things went well. So, what's with the troubled look? I still stare out into the city, and past it in the direction where the endless clouds lead to Seraphel, and shrug. I don't know. I didn't expect my generals to change so much. Maria's face flashes in my mind when I say this, but the others come to mind right after, as speaking it out loud makes it real. I probably would have tucked these thoughts away and moved on to my next phase of the plan, but Ava's asked, and she's a key part of this team now too, so she should know what's on my mind. There's something different about training and fighting together, versus them growing and going through trials of their own without me. I can tell they've changed, especially during that realm wave, far more than any time apart before. Ava chuckles and slowly swings her legs off the edge of the tower, then turns to face me. They're probably thinking the same thing about you. You've certainly already changed a lot since the day I met you falling out of the sky. I open my mouth to speak, but don't and let that fact settle in too. I've gone off on my own plenty of times, training with Ember or entering the B-class exams, and the most extreme one, entering the throne. It's always been in the name of survival to save ourselves and save humanity. Though right now is no different. In fact, the stakes are even higher. If we are not strong enough to face the threat in the green zone of the upper realm, and the facade is broken before I can pull off my plan, the wrath of the 5 great families will come down on every single world connected to my rising emperor's domain. A battle of thoughts collides in my mind, wondering if this is how it will always be, fighting upward until I die, or if there is more purpose to all of this. The secrets of the heights of the path of nobility are still a blur to me, as even Seraphel does not know how one surpasses the state I've made it to. What makes things even more strange are the states I feel my generals and those around me in. It's like they are awakening a separate path, not of nobility, but using the same frequency manipulation to create their own. The more I try to understand the intricacies of the system, the more convoluted it all becomes. At the end of all these jumbled threads of thought, Ember's face still appears in my mind as well, the most convoluted mystery of them all, because out of everyone, he's the one who knows the truth, but is least likely to be the one to reveal it to me. If my mental shields weren't up right now, I might be going insane. The only reason I'm able to breathe and think this clearly is because I've completed all my training. There is nothing more I can learn or train to get stronger, other than drinking Ember's elixir, and of course the experience I would get in battle fighting a superior opponent with at least high noble vibrations themselves. Ava doesn't say a word as I think, turning back to look out over the city and swing her legs with a smile. Though, once I come back to a peaceful state, I am interrupted by a ping from Bree and Alvaron, ready to talk business. Jay, we've worked out the commander's and night schedule in order to strengthen them further. However, there are two things that need attention. Alvaron's low-quality ether trade contract, and the fact that Pluto has done as asked. He and his dragon have compressed their true cores. He is now strong enough to carry out that mission. I smile and transfer 1.2 million low-quality ether to Bree and nod. There. Place that in a shared secure account. One can be created in the worldwide connectivity system. Bree, you will be the owner, and 100,000 low-quality ether per month for a year will become free to trade to Alvaron alone. I'll have you broker the trade based on the current market price, and we can reload the account once it's drained. I turn to Alvaron in our virtual meeting and the Silver Knight replies. That is satisfactory. Good. I turn back to Bree. And Pluto is ready? Excellent. Have all of the knights in the Crimson Army power level with my doubles up to the Labyrinth's 199th floor. Then, give him confirmation to collapse it and bring its energy back to the demonic realm. I'm sure the Vermilion family's lower realm branch is still eager to recruit such talent. My eyes gleam with excitement, as this conversation is exactly what I needed to get back in the mood for killing the demons that tried to take over my home world with no remorse. Understood. I will do exactly that. Great. Our links are cut off and I turn to Ava, then turn my head away in a different direction while allowing a tiny amount of mana control and divine threads to mimic that of the 5th-class human I'm trying to portray. Well, there is one thing left to do. I must study the enemy's home base with my own eyes to finalize my options. Ava's eyebrows rise as she looks off in the direction I do, while memories from a demonic Cyclops guardian and Andrus Vermilion replay in my mind with fractured memories of the place in question. You mean, now? You want to go to the Grand Citadel? Chapter 790. Down in the lower realm on the human world, in the outer edges of the Crimson City, deep within a canyon filled with the highest quality dungeons in the Dark Continent, a demon and dragon stand before a containment case holding enough mana to bring this labyrinth to a collapsing point. A ping in the demon's ear arrives not long after he sent his request, and it comes from Bree, the woman who gave him this task in the first place. The Rising Emperor has granted you permission to move on to the next stage. You will soon return to the demonic realm, but we need a few more days to take advantage of the power leveling opportunity at such a high-floored labyrinth. So, consume the mana in small bursts and wait for another confirmation to push it over the edge to create the final floor. Pluto smiles at these words and looks his true cord dragon in the eyes. Thanks to the Rising Emperor before leaving, Pluto was granted an earth summoning skill, normally reserved for a small subset of second-class monsters and an extremely small percentage of humans and other intelligent third-class mana-based lifeforms. Demons cannot naturally gain such a skill, and as a result of this, the Labyrinth Guardian has awakened quite the unique true core skill that will certainly set him apart from any other. Even considering the fact that many of the strongest demons, even some nobles, do not have their true cores compressed after completing their trials, it is very common for this stage of training to be conducted in the demonic realm. Pluto does not come from any of the 5 great families' bloodlines, nor did he come from a powerful demonic world to give him a third, second, or first-class bloodline transformation. He is a commoner of the demonic race. This fact puts him on edge, so despite the good news that he won't be a part of the 99.99% of demons that die in their off-world labyrinth trials and never return, he is still unsure if he stacks up against the demons of royalty. Living outside of the main kingdom walls, even the red-cored demonic knights of the Vermilion family are worshipped like gods by the commoners. Do you really believe this will work? He asks his earth dragon. The dark brown eyes of his soul-bound partner hold many memories behind them that only it can know. Any that are shared with its bonded partner will be burned away by the fallen one's curse. However, the dragon replies, understanding that to a common demon this all may seem too good to be true, but the fact that they are linked to the Rising Emperor system means that this mission they've been given is far more important than he could ever know. It will work. Considering the Vermilion family has just lost a noble demon and a strong squad from their lower realm forces, they will be searching for as much fresh talent as they can. It is not common for a demon to return with a true core already compressed. There is certainly an open slot you can fill. In the upper realm, fractured memories of Andras Vermilion's time on the Grand Citadel, and even more blurred and fuzzy images from various sources of the demonic beasts I've killed, come to the surface of my mind. However, the most important parts are missing. I know the Citadel is massive, multiple times larger than the one I stand on now, but for some reason the large-scale imagery and exact location of this place is a blur in every memory I recall. There are vague visions of time inside the core of the Citadel, where the family head stays. However, they are all inside, and I have no memories of how to reach this place. Many other strange corridors and massive rooms full of storage and secure meeting and training rooms are fuzzy in my mind too. The strongest memories are all associated with the fighting events that even Zacian has mentioned, where the strongest demons, berserkers, and other powerful lords show off to be recruited for jobs. Andras participated in these events in the past, but only for fun or for show. It is more so an event for second- and first-class lords holding many worlds, yet are spread far apart in the galaxy below. It has been tradition to link the realms, even before the demons took over. Now, it is more commonly used for the training and testing grounds for new demons and their experiments. However, finding others to make alliances or carry out jobs in the lower realm is a common occurrence, even here in Ellipsia. So, despite my fuzzy memories, this is true in the Grand Citadel still as well. The disappointing part is that many memories of that citadel are wiped, replaced by nothing but overwhelming fear and obedience toward a tall, long-horned demon. For me to carry out my part of the plan, I know exactly where I need to go, but it is still a mystery how exactly to get there. Andras Vermilion relied solely on the Citadel systems and pre-built ether commands in his custom avatar, so trying to reverse engineer any of the simple commands he activated in the past when entering the surveillance zone of the Citadel is pointless. I reply to Ava, as she's already deduced my thoughts. Yes, I need to scope out the Grand Citadel. Ember and the warlords have a plan to secure the fortress, and all of my memories of the Mensa Citadel are still intact. Securing these will not be a problem. Then let's go. I haven't had a chance to use my instincts with this new avatar upgrade. If there is anything that needs to be found, that would normally be trapped away. I'll be able to find it. I think of the danger of bringing Ava with me, as she does not have the power of a high noble sealed within her. There is knowledge of one other noble here in the Green Zone, other than the family head. But the number of mutations and experimental nobles like the demonic Cyclops that still exist in this vast realm are unknown to me. It's a risk, but the gaze Ava sends me is full of seriousness, calmness, and curiosity. She's committed to help and witnessed both my kills of Andras and the Guardian. It's clear there are stronger beasts lurking out there, but she wants to come. I accept this fact and am about to voice an entirely different concern. But Ember's voice echoes in both of our inner ears before I do. Do not worry about the tower. I'll guard your generals and make sure nothing goes wrong here. Both of you visiting the Grand Citadel is an excellent idea. Just do not speak out loud so casually like you are here. The surveillance system is far more extensive and harder to fool. My neck swivels, looking back in the direction of the High Orc Tower, half expecting Ember to be floating nearby. But he is truly on the other edge of the Citadel and easily eavesdropped from that distance. Point taken. I reply through our mental link, then turn to Ava and begin weaving a few more ether commands. If I can sense whatever that energy is coming off of you, the Vermilion family head can too. The adjustments I made to all of the warlords and Ava's avatars earlier are not as strong as the commands and pseudo-seals I'm creating now. They're made of pure low-quality ether but rest below the surface layer of her skin. Just the same as her connection with the Ellipsia Citadel, she can deactivate it anytime. Her thin smile grows to a wide one as she steps up from the ledge of the tower and looks down at her hands. You could really sense my instincts? I nod, wondering why she's called that aura her instincts while looking back toward the Grand Citadel. Yes, just barely. Once I have a better idea of this surveillance system Ember is talking about, we'll see if we can safely undo this blocker. While I can sense them, I still have no idea how they work, nor do I have any idea what the difference is between her strange aura or any of the other generals forming aura paths of their own. I don't even know the difference between my own noble vibrations and these, but Ember's voice butts in again. I would come with you, but I must stay and tend to Zacian until he wakes. I can be your eyes and ears here while you're out of range. A spectate window pops up, and I instantly accept it, showing me only a purely visual view of the sleeping berserker inside the High Orc Tower. Plain outlines of the entire citadel, like a barely rendered version of my ether senses, come through too. I can fill in the gaps and see the citadel for what it really is, but no additional sensory data is shared. All I'm receiving is a very basic version of what Ember sees. Perfect. I reply back, not wanting to question why he doesn't give me full access to his senses right now when I have better things to worry about. Then, I open up my ether panel and select one of the basic Citadel commands that I gained access to when I linked my fake identity as a 5th-class human lord to this system. I select a one-way fast travel command and add Ava, the 3rd-class Goblin Queen, to the ride. A dense orb of translucent white light forms around us and begins to calculate the estimated distance and travel time to the Grand Citadel. Chapter 791. The ether orb around myself and Ava locks in place, then bursts forward with a steady and extremely fast pace. It is multiple times faster than the standard fast travel orbs that transport people within the Ellipsia Citadel, yet the travel time is still set to arrive in over 8 hours. In my fully unsealed form, I've already sensed around the Citadel for a few 100,000 kilometers on every side. Plus, I know it takes less than an hour to travel about 1,000,000 kilometers from the realm transfer point where I first arrived here in the Upper Realm. My training ground with Seraphel was far past this, roughly 10 million kilometers away, so my guess is we're headed a similar distance, or possibly even further. I turn to Ava as Ellipsia begins to get smaller behind us, speaking through our telepathic link rather than out loud after Ember's warning. All right, this will be a quick mission. In and out. We blend in like normal lower-class lords looking to trade in some ether for mana in order to send to our homeworlds. In reality, we'll make maps of the Citadel's inner workings and ether commands. I know what I'm looking for, but I'm not sure how hard it'll be to find it. Sounds good with me. I won't use anything more than an average basic avatar a 3rd-class lord would display until you've cloaked us from the new Citadel's surveillance. She replies. Then we fly off into the endless green clouds of the Upper Realm. My mind is half relaxed, and half trying to wrap my brain around this new power that I cannot quite sense. Thinking back to the data I received from Bree on the exploration of Kelfer, I know where the auras on Abby, Raven, and Ari have originated from. The Wyverns, Berserkers, and Dark Elves had strong members of their races leave those artifacts behind. Abby's even being named an inheritance for an entire race. This triggers the memory of the strange black cube I found in the enormous humanoid statue back on the human world. Too called itself an inheritance, though, as far as I know, there have not been any specific perks that have made themselves known to me. It has merged with my flame and dark swords to create a soul weapon and become a host for the unique cubic black artifact that was rotating around me. But no new memories or abilities have made themselves known linked with this so-called amplifier. This brings me to remember another small piece of information written in ASIC's notes on soul weapons that I gathered for Bree, outlining that only one amplifier is created for every race. If that is true, whatever is sleeping dormant in my sword must have a higher purpose than just a tool for battle, though I have yet to figure out what or why. As Ellipsia disappears from sight behind us, I ask Ava another question to try and piece together more clues about my wandering thoughts. You mentioned that you found an inheritance tomb on your home world, right? By chance. Do you remember what race it was from? Or even better, a description of what you saw or felt once you accepted it. Sure, I can tell you how it happened, she replies. As the clouds was by our sides, I listened to the story of Ava finding a tomb made of bright white originator stone, with very similar runes and markings on its inside like the one I found. Her tomb was deep underground and came stocked with large amounts of divine threads and concentrated chi, as if whatever left it behind knew it was dying or was already dead. Memories of an entity drifting through the endless stars and falling down to her home world, watching it grow and develop on its own for countless years, are shared with Ava, partially similar to my memories from Adam. However, all of the visions I received from my inheritance were on the human world. Her descriptions sound far more similar to the memories Celia showed me when we met inside her construct. Though, Ava is unable to confirm or deny if this inheritance comes from the goblin race or something else. She doesn't even have a soul weapon or physical artifact to prove it. Whatever inheritance it left has combined with her soul. Many other intricate details of her story are shared, and dozens of times it's perked up and triggered thoughts and feelings to aid her in making decisions. Paths to take, life or death, instinctual movements in battles she was never ready for, and of course, her decision to choose the exile zones rather than living a normal life up on the Citadel decades ago. Though all these premonitions of the past have sparked from the depths of her mind and would appear randomly, now, she says right now it feels entirely within her control, and she can summon the aura to use it to a certain extent whenever she wishes. At the same time, Pluto and his dragon begin to let more and more of the compressed mana out from the containment case, and squads of hunters from the Crimson Army take turns dungeon walking in and farming the higher floors for levels. Rodrigo sits down at a meeting with many of the old regional leaders and the association heads from large land masses outside of the 8 great regions, Dark Continent and Central City. They discuss forming new labyrinths in the main capitals of the human world and keeping them level-capped, yet accessible for those within their trusted ranks. It would not be safe to have more than the Crimson Army running around at level 20,000. The standard ranking system for the association will remain in place, keeping large amounts of the population below level 500, just under new management. The fast travel time flies by, and after hearing of all the times Ava's instinctual inheritance was triggered, with in-depth explanations of how it felt and the ripple effect of events that it has caused in many cases, I'm possibly even more confused than before I asked. With my own divine grade foresight skill, I can understand how complex patterns and energy waves can be analyzed to predict potential outcomes, but some of the scenarios she's describing sound impossible. The increase in reflexes for survival situations or the draw toward high-energy substances makes sense, but the part that stumps me are a few of her long-term decisions, especially the ones that had to do with choosing to live in the outer ring of the exile zones. Predicting events that would have happened before I was even born on the human world, halfway across the galaxy. This doesn't add up, and it's certainly not making understanding my own inheritance any easier. While I haven't made any progress on the soul weapon or noble vibration front, our interesting exchanges do tell me a lot about Ava's old life. However, it comes to an end once ripples of new ether commands start to hit my consciousness. The presence of an extremely thin and weak surveillance system hits my senses and is paired with a familiar ringing in my ear. Level 1 surveillance zone reached. Stated cargo. World M5-392765550 Lord. Analyzing cargo. Cargo confirmed. Destination. Grand Citadel entry point 021458. Yes. No. It's the same sound and style of messaging as what I received the day I was thrust into the upper realm from the throne. However, this time, the barriers and ether commands I've created to make myself look like an average Ellipsia citizen have worked perfectly. I'm not going for a fall into the exile zones below like last time. I smile while pressing yes and watch Ava do the same as her single third-class homeworld is scanned and the same entry point destination is selected. Though, as the text fades, it is strange that I still see no citadel. It has also only been 6 hours at most. The fact that we've made it through the first thin bubble of surveillance, about 1/10 the density of the Ellipsia citadels, makes me believe that this is just a very far-out pre-scan protocol, and it is not very strong. However, it isn't a theory I'd like to test out right now. I decide to stay still and silent, staring forward without letting any advanced ether commands or special aura leak out as we fly further into the bubble. It becomes slightly thicker every few thousand kilometers we pass. If not for the density of ether in the atmosphere and the strength of the ether commands slowly rising, I would not be able to tell we're even moving. All around, there are just more and more green clouds that move off into the ends of my vision. They all look identical, and the ether orb tech doesn't allow for any external outside movements to be felt. Though, about an hour later, another ping sounds in my ear. Level 2 surveillance zone reached. Stated cargo. World M5-392765550 Lord. Analyzing cargo. Cargo confirmed. No additional confirmation is necessary, but there is a very heavy shift in ether pressure after this ding. It's as though we've burst through an invisible wall, and the number of active ether commands around us skyrockets by over 100 times. Maps of travel paths and security protocols are everywhere I look, as densely packed as though we're in the center of Ellipsia. I bet there is even more than this, as I'm not even using my advanced ether senses. I'm merely using my eyes and attention to the fluctuation of waves in the atmosphere. Level 3 surveillance zone reached. Stated cargo. World M5-392765550 Lord. Analyzing cargo. Cargo confirmed. After another 30 minutes soaring through the denser second level of pathways and commands, we're scanned a third time and pushed into an even more complex level of security protocols and possible ether orb pathways. I can see millions of possible paths to move just from where we stand, and every moment we move further inward it gets more and more intense. So intense, in fact, that without exposing myself and letting my true ether senses leak out, my eyes cannot keep up anymore. Outside of our fast travel orb, the ether commands become so closely packed together, it just appears like a white translucent gel, too complex to comprehend. It is equally fascinating and slightly terrifying. Though, my attention soon leaves my immediate surroundings as a massive structure begins to fill the entirety of my view at the horizon. At first, it appears as though the sky is turning dark further away, but we are just moving closer to a structure that is too massive to see in its entirety. I see no towers like the ones we left in Ellipsia, and as I saw in my fractured memories of this grand citadel. This looks very different. All I see is an enormous black wall that becomes easier to visualize the closer we come. Its outer edges fade into view, turning the green sky dark, and eventually my entire vision of the path before me turns pure black. We are still moving forward at the same rate, but it becomes much harder to tell how far away we actually are. Chapter 792. The Grand Citadel gets larger and larger, filling every corner of my vision, making the entire horizon and sky before me turn black the closer we travel. The density of ether commands gets thicker too, but my unaided senses stopped being able to tell the difference tens of thousands of kilometers ago. If I were to really try and examine my environment, I would certainly be affecting it by looking, and that's the last thing I want. I do not know who or what is keeping track of these commands, as there's a chance it's not an automated system. Full minutes pass, and both mine and Ava's eyes don't stop widening. I can deduce that whatever we're headed toward is actually a sphere. It looks like a plain black wall now that we're closer, but when I first visualized it, the edges were faded, covered in the divine threads in the atmosphere. This is only the fault of my own mortal vision. The center portion is what I was able to see first, and the outer edges have become more visible the closer we get. This means the further edges are, in fact, farther back than what is directly in front of me, so we are headed toward a curved wall at the very least. Though, as we're arriving now, the curves are so subtle, most likely spanning over hundreds of thousands of kilometers or more, that it just seems flat. I cannot tell if it is still an illusion, and we're still minutes or hours away from arriving, or if at any second now we will collide with the black wall. It is quite ominous. Yet both Ava and I stare forward and wait, watching as clouds pass and the dark black wall remains unchanged. At the speed we travel forward, after almost half an hour passes, I'm sure we've traveled hundreds of thousands of kilometers forward, meaning the sphere before us is at least 1,000,000 kilometers wide. There are entire stars in the lower realm that are smaller than whatever this structure is. I believed the Ellipsia Citadel was enormous, spanning the diameter of large planets, but thousands of them could fit inside whatever this is. The name Grand Citadel is very fitting, and we still haven't even seen what is inside or any tangible differences on its surface to gauge the actual size. That is, until minutes later, a new notification rings in my ear paired with a gentle upward shift in the ether orb's trajectory. Arriving at Grand Citadel entry point 021458. Please prepare for a manual entry scan. The clouds around us move even faster, and even though the ether commands around us are so impossibly thick that there must be billions of dormant actions just within 100 meters of this orb, I can visually make out a single line of ether that our orb follows up toward a selected point on the wall. Less than 20 seconds later, our orb completely stops, and a bright white rectangle opens in front of us on the black wall. My lack of concrete depth perception without using my advanced senses makes me second-guess if this is an enormous opening, spanning thousands of kilometers, that an entire citadel could fit through. However, once the entire black section disappears and a demonic servant stands in its place less than 30 meters in front of us, taking up less than half of the doorway's height, I get a proper gauge of what is real. Its bright green outline glows against the pure white background of this wall, and it lifts a hand to activate an ether command that takes control of our ether orb and pulls it closer. I feel a very familiar scanning command take place probing my fake avatar, and Ava's expression shows the same is happening to her. I'm quite confident in my disguise and the changes I made to her avatar, so I let it happen with no protest as we're pulled over to stand in front of the demon on a solid surface inside the rectangular door that leads to a hallway flooded with pure white light. Welcome to the Grand Citadel, 5th class human lord, and 3rd class goblin lord. Are you traveling together or separate? Comes out from the servant's mouth in the same default mechanical tone that all of the servant avatars use. Together, I reply out loud, having to look up at the servant that is over triple my height, nearing that of Ava next to me. It turns toward the goblin queen beside me, not reacting until she replies, together, as well. Then, the ether orb completely disperses as the servant nods. Very well. Are you here to trade, visit the wilderness, enter the tournament, or watch the fights? I think about a response, but the options this guard has stated are intriguing. On top of that, a light gray holographic crown floats above the servant's head. It looks like it is halfway filled up with bright ether in a semi-liquid state. It appears to be part of this servant's avatar. My best guess is maybe a special perk for direct servants under the royal family head, but its features are unknown to me. The crown slowly spins, and the guard catches onto my gaze watching it, but it doesn't comment on it while I reply. We're here to trade. Some low-quality ether for mana and other unique items to bring back to Ellipsia. The servant nods mechanically. This must be your first visit to the Grand Citadel. You've already passed our fast travel reroute points for the trading terminals. I'm happy to order a new fast travel orb free of cost to the nearest hub. My gaze tightens, but I decide to just tell a portion of the truth in my next response. Oh yes, this is our first visit. I was hoping to get inside to see the tournament as well. There is one monthly, right? In that case, I am very happy to be the one to make your first impressions as grand as possible. The guard's facial expression doesn't shift when he says he's happy, making his words slightly off-putting as he continues. The fighting tournament is an exciting event. I can book you both slots for the events that begin in just 7 days. Though please allow me to give you a better visual of what we have to offer. Being limited to only the trade terminals as a pair of young lords would be such a waste. Something churns in my stomach at this servant's words, as it seems so willing and almost eager to let us through these walls, or into their trading terminals, without any questioning or in-depth scans. Though my focus turns to a hologram that forms above the demon's 2 outstretched empty palms. It shows what looks like a massive floating dome, a sphere sliced in half. There is a visual of divine clouds surrounding it just like there are behind us, and there are 12 large trading terminals that float around the top of the dome outside of it. A few of the terminals are grayed out in the displays labeled inactive, as whatever citadels they were previously linked to no longer trade with the Grand Citadel. Though half of them still light up bright green, 2 of which are linked to Ellipsia. The demonic servant points to them. There are the two terminals where you could trade your goods. They have direct connections to the Mensa, Fortress, and of course, the main Grand Citadel terminals. Then, it points back down to the base of the outside of the dome below them. As the hologram zooms in, thousands of labels begin to fly by, and different-sized doorways on the base of the dome light up to show white doors identical to ours. This is one of the many hundreds of thousands of entry points to the Grand Citadel. It zooms in further, mimicking the action of flying through the door, and beneath the dome, I see a massive pillar in its center taking up over 25% of the Citadel's mass. Considering my first guess that this structure is near 1,000,000 kilometers wide, whatever is inside there is still far larger than Ellipsia by at least a magnitude of 10. However, this pillar is not the main attraction. Surrounding it, there seems to be a massive realm of its own. Similar to Celia's construct, but this is just a holographic rendition, so it's hard to tell if what I'm seeing is real. There are thousands of worlds worth of lifelike landscapes, but spread out on a flat surface surrounding the pillar. Enormous mountains, deep valleys, deserts, oceans, lush forests, rocky cliffs, mushrooms the size of trees, open plains, volcanic regions, snowy hills, never-ending lightning storms, and peaceful meadows full of colorful flowers. The demonic servant scrolls through all of this vibrant wildlife like it's nothing, hardly showing 1% of it, and shifting the view to focus on the pillar. Inside here is where all of the tournaments are held. I cannot give you access to this area until you have confirmed your visit for the monthly events. Casual access is restricted to second class and above lords. Though, I must say, a majority of our Citadel's population spends their time in the wilderness. All lord classes are welcome to explore, live their lives in paradise, and of course, receive avatar upgrades 13 times faster on average than an identical lord living their lives in Mensa or Ellipsia. I want to raise my eyebrows and turn to Ava in shock. Not because of the fact that there are tens of thousands of worlds worth of nature behind these walls in an artificial realm, but because of the blatant sales pitch this servant just tried to pull. There has to be far more than meets the eye to the Citadel, and it's going to be much harder to figure out than I first expected. The fact that the diagram this servant is showing is of a dome is one fact that stands out to me right away. My eyes may not be enhanced by my full perception at the moment, but I don't think it's too far of a stretch to still believe the Citadel is a full sphere. I'm not going to get anywhere closer to the truth by staying outside and visiting those trading terminals. But this is far more strange than any of my memories recalled. I see no tall towers or complex structures in the hologram, so they must be within that massive pillar at the center of the wilderness. A fighting tournament that can house battles with noble demons, and all of the strongest first-class lords in the green zone of the upper realm must have some infrastructure built around it. I send a quick wave of mental telepathy to Ava, as this is exactly where we need to go to get more information. She replies to the guard while my eyes track back up to the translucent crown slowly spinning above its head. Well, in that case, we'd like to reserve 2 tickets to watch the tournament. Chapter 793. Ember stands in silence on the top floor of the High Orc Tower. His gaze is steady on the sleeping berserker in front of him, but the back of his mind and his perception, which can see through ether structures with ease, watches the 4 generals within the central tower. Small fluctuations ripple through his senses as they begin to absorb the energy in their respective floors. Once all of the necessary mana and chi per floor is absorbed and processed, complex arrays bound to noble vibrations teleport the generals to the floor above. While the bottom floor does not have any divine threads, the second floor does, and the 4 generals are in for a rude awakening once they feel the pressure and realize they have 998 floors to go. There are barely enough threads in the room for them to maintain their green, denser form. If not for the dense ether and echoes of noble vibrations stacked perfectly to hold them in place, they would have already dispersed into yellow threads in these wide-open rooms. After pulling the dense liquid pools of energy in the air toward them, the divine threads naturally flow toward their cores, and the artificial shackles placed on them dissolve, allowing each general to face the green threads alone. In such a controlled environment, it is possible for them to wait long enough for the threads to be processed and revert to yellows if they expend enough of their true core's energy. This was proven during the fight within the throne on the human world, when the rising emperor consumed an orb of green threads while still at the yellow core. The green threads strengthened the yellow astral form temporarily, but were expelled during battle with Draco Vermilion, saving the physical body as it was not ready for this degree of pressure yet. The generals faced this challenge on a much safer and smaller scale. Maria drains the second room without much issue. The green threads stream through her body, burning and tearing away at her flesh and blood-bonded armor. Yet, using my self-regeneration skill, these are healed just as quickly. Raven and Ari go through a similar process, but their body language shows they are in far more pain. Abby, on the other hand, absorbs the green threads without flinching. They seem to flow right through her and begin tinting her true yellow core green. Ember grins to himself as the fluctuations of energy waves occur more and more often, with dozens of floors being cleared over these 8 hours. None of the generals have used their greater forms yet, and the starting stages are more to get them accustomed to the feeling of green threads in their bodies. Soon, the real challenge will begin. Simply withstanding the threads and simultaneously healing will not be enough on the higher floors. They will all need to find a way to mutate their bodies and systems to survive in the upper realm. Meanwhile, the demonic servant responds to Ava's request to get tickets for the tournament event within the Grand Citadel. Excellent. I will add you to the waiting list now. A few seconds pass, then a subtle wave of ether links to our avatars, and a countdown window displaying just under 7 days appears in my avatar's subconscious. Then, in the meantime, would you still like your trip to the trading terminals? Or would you like to explore the wilderness? Once that timer reaches 0, fast travel commands will bring you both to the center of the Citadel where the arena awaits. Until the first event begins, you are both still eligible to enter as fighters as well. I raise an eyebrow, but Ava is the one to reply since she's the one who asked about the tickets in the first place. What do you mean once it reaches 0? We can't enter now and relax until the tournament begins. The servant shakes its head slowly, maintaining an unchanging, neutral expression. Of course not. The capital city is only open to the public above second class, those attending the tournament, and of course adventurers who have completed at least one crown cycle. Ava and I have a mental back and forth, and she voices the questions we're both wondering. Adventurers? And crown cycles? What exactly do you mean? The demon wastes no time and points to the strange, translucent crown floating above its head. Adventurers of the wilderness. Once a lord enters, their avatar begins gaining experience, finding treasures, fighting wild beasts sent here from planets with less intelligent life, and even killing other lords in hostile zones. While one can live a peaceful life in the safe areas and let experience build through time spent within the Citadel, many opt to explore. The demon zooms out on the holographic visual it was showing us and begins scrolling through the hundreds of thousands of kilometers worth of terrain again. It's clear from the mild shock on our faces that none of this was known to us before coming here. While I could easily put up a concealment barrier and shield our surprise, showing this genuine reaction reinforces the image that we're just random new lords. It would be better than turning back or just spending a week in the trading terminals. Ava's voice echoes in my mind. Right? We could probably complete one of those crown cycles pretty easily, given we're no normal lords, and might find something even more interesting than what we were initially after in the meantime. I reply while looking at the crown floating above the avatar's head, not even trying to hide my interest now. I speak out loud to confirm. Then we'll go into the wilderness. We can leave any time we want, right? If we want to go to the trading terminals before leaving for the tournament. The demonic servant smiles for the first time since we arrived and nods. Very good. Allow me to make adjustments to your avatars to link you to the Citadel. These Ellipsia commands are quite outdated. And yes, of course, you can leave whenever you wish once you're in the safe zones. The guard taps away at his system, making the hologram of the Citadel disappear, and new white pulses of aura flow through us. It begins altering and making technical changes to the disguise of ether commands I've layered my body with and does the same to Ava. Only the outer layer of her avatar, which I created to make her seem like a legal Ellipsia citizen, is altered. None of her true form or the base created by Asik and Torvak are touched. These are extremely surface-level changes, but for a normal lord who would be living in this avatar rather than just using the commands as a fake shield, they would be extremely invasive. I don't even raise an eyebrow and let it happen, as a fifth-class human should not have enough perception to understand what is even going on. A few seconds later, 2 flashes of light around us signal that this guard is finished, and there is a very obvious difference to our appearances. I turn to Ava and see 3 gray crowns slowly rotating above her head. They're about half the size of the demonic guards. My eyes tilt upward, and I see 5 even smaller translucent gray crowns slowly spinning around my own head. There is a small amount of ether that I used to create these commands to disguise myself, as I've mimicked the energy output for a real Lord's basic grade avatar. The first thing I sense is a slow leak of energy coming off this ether manifestation, extremely slowly pooling into one of the crowns. An instant mental note from Ava tells me she feels the same thing. If these commands were placed on any normal Lord, this pull would be coming directly from their ether pools. I crack a grin, now certain that something extremely different from what is being portrayed on the surface of the citadel is happening within. And that's it. The demonic servant continues to tap away at his system. Yes, I will program a safe route down to one of the more tame hostile zones for you to get a taste for the wilderness. A small map appears in my mental vision, but there is nothing on it. It is just blank. The demon stops tapping his system and steps aside as the door to the outside green zone of the upper realm closes. Wherever you travel, that map will fill in a detailed replica of what you have seen. Even information like this can be traded for crown experience. So, please walk forward into the wilderness. The demon's smile grows even larger, almost to a creepy extent. Where it's pointing is just a blinding white light, but I can feel that it is just densely packed ether commands, and my curiosity to find out the truth about this wilderness and the real purpose of these crowns is killing me. Ava looks my way, and we both nod together. Then, walk forward to pass through the outer walls of the Grand Citadel, using entry point 021458 as intended. Chapter 794. I feel an ether orb form, and the subtle visuals of movements and ether commands triggering all around us. All that can be seen is a blinding white light afterward, as the density and opacity of this orb are far different from the standard ones from Ellipsia. Seconds later, the blinding light disperses, and I feel my feet hit solid ground, eerily natural and familiar solid ground, actually, like there are real rocks, grass, and dampness below me. I breathe in, and the humidity in the air is even palpable, something I haven't felt since back on the human world while diving into jungle biomes. The divine thread density is the same as it is outside, and the number of ether commands in any given area is still so complex that trying to sort them with my unaided senses is impossible. We're in a perfectly constructed, controlled environment. Ava looks around beside me as well, taking in the lush forest we've been dropped into. There are tall trees, colorful mushrooms that seem to be soaked with mana, flowing water sounds nearby, and true rocky forest soil beneath our feet. There are vibrant vines all over the trees and a blue sky overhead. I even hear movement all around and turn my head to watch a small blue ball of slime hopping up and down next to a pond of water at the base of a thick tree. My gaze tightens, and I continue looking around, letting my senses go out as far as they can while maintaining the output of a fifth-class human lord. I don't let my aura surge outward more than a few hundred meters, but in doing so, I find even more unintelligent life. Dozens of slimes, all with 5 gray floating crowns rotating above their heads. There is even a forest troll about 150 meters to our right, with 4 crowns above its head. What is this place? Is all I muster out, my eyes wide open. It all feels so real, and if what that guard at the door said was correct, these are all lower-class lords without enough intelligence to assimilate into the Mensa or Ellipsia Citadel. There must be some kind of scan done upon arrival that tests if a lord can hear or interact with the system, and if the answer is no, they drop them in here to be used as entertainment. Ava replies to me, but through telepathy instead of speaking aloud. It wouldn't make sense for them to just send lords in here to die without reason, even if they're unintelligent. It's not like we were charged an entry fee or anything. I nod along in agreement, and simultaneously, the blank map that was given to me starts to update itself. Wherever I've turned my head back and forth has printed a perfect image of the terrain and even notes on the monsters and their classes. Though, that feature isn't what catches my attention. It's the bright white dot off in the distance in an unmarked area of the map. It's impossible to know how far away it really is without any references between myself and it, but the fact that it's labeled Safe Zone makes this exactly where I point in front of us. I'm sure you see it too. That destination is our first goal. That guard really dropped us out in the middle of nowhere. We head forward through the vibrant mushroom forest and cross paths with many of the docile slimes hopping about. They look so clear and beautiful, even more real and lifelike than any dungeon I've ever been in. I see no point in killing them, as they haven't attacked me, so the two of us just wander through the woods. The sour smells from the mushrooms and the gentle serene trickle of water soothe my ears as we walk almost a full kilometer through the wilderness before encountering any problems. One of the lurking 4th class forest trolls jumps out from a swampy area, holding a short, curved sword-like weapon covered in algae and plants from the still water. One of its crowns is bright white, and another is just white on the bottom. The other two are gray and empty. I'm quite intrigued, as many of the slimes we've passed have had varying fullness on their crowns too. Though I don't fight back, as I already see Ava moving into action, so I don't bat an eye. The long-limbed, wet, brown and gray-bodied monster, standing over 3 meters tall, is hit with an ether-imbued punch to the chest, tearing it in half and shattering its avatar into dozens of pieces. This is all still well within the standard commands that can be bought in a basic-grade avatar on a 3rd-class lord, though the strength behind the punch itself, from Ava who surpassed level 20,000 while fighting demonic orcs and cyclops beneath Ellipsia, is far higher than the average 3rd-class lord that ascends to the upper realm at level 3000 to 4000. However, despite this difference in strength, the 4 gray crowns above the largest piece of flesh remaining still spin in circles. The visual of this troll's fractured body parts all floating back up to the swamp's surface and crawling down from the nearby trees they've been splattered onto reminds me of where I got the self-regeneration skill in the first place. Trolls are equally as annoying to get rid of in the upper realm as they were in dungeons, it seems. It's going to need a bit more than just brute force to kill these things. I message into Ava's inner ear as I step forward, making it so she doesn't have to borrow any skills from me and blow our cover. Humans have a high chance of gaining elemental skills, while I'm unsure if goblins are capable of doing so naturally. So, as soon as the troll's parts come together and its vocal cords reform to let out a screech, I put up my right hand and let out a simple pillar of fire. It takes a few seconds for the screeches to stop, but once the flames completely envelop it and its flesh begins melting away, the regeneration cannot keep up with the heat I put out. I don't stop until I see the crowns above its head start to fade and hear a string of notifications ring in my mind. Use absorption. Skill. Self-regeneration. Upgrade. Divine. Yes. No. I chuckle to myself at how easy that was as I press yes, and my excitement for coming here rises far more than just moments ago. My body doubles that are stuck in the lower realm do not have divine-grade absorption and cannot farm endless dungeons to upgrade my long list of mythic-grade skills. However, there seems to be a wide-open construct of feral monsters ready to be farmed straight from the source. My attention falls back down to where the corpse of the troll melted away. I'm prepared to create an illusion array with light magic and a multitude of complex ether commands already set up to trigger inside my pre-built false avatar. But for some reason, I don't have to use much. My system triggers this as a kill, and a small amount of the divine threads from its core flow into me and are perfectly masked. Considering it was never a compressed true core, I get no extra abilities, and it isn't much. Draining threads like this from a corpse is possible for any skilled lord, but absorbing ether is not. This is what I created the special commands to mask, but no ether leaks out from this kill. Instead, it stays trapped inside the crowns that fade away and collapse in on each other until they hit a single point, creating a small white orb that floats from the damp ground and up to my eye level. Kill confirmed. Reward: 2.7091 low-quality ether. Add to crown pool. Yes. No. I raise an eyebrow, as this may not be a lot of ether to me, holding almost 110 million in my true pool, but for a normal lord this is an extremely high amount. Some 5th-class worlds could be purchased with this much ether in Ellipsia. I press yes, and let the white orb dissolve into my palm, adding to the artificial ether stores in the commands that line my body. I'm expecting my crowns to fill up and begin glowing white, but this is not what happens at all. The ether just sits dormant in my avatar's artificial pool. The only difference I feel is that the pull from this pool feels stronger, as though it's draining faster into the crowns. Hey, look! It left its blade behind too. Ava comments as I turn to my side to see her picking up the dead shell of a soul weapon. I guess, keep that with us. We might as well kill a few more and collect some loot along the way. She places the long knife into her ether storage using a basic-grade avatar command, and we continue forward at a steady pace. Though I do stop to send a fireball at a slime with 2 of its 5 crowns filled, minding its own business beneath the shade of a bright red and blue mushroom. It doesn't even have time to react before the same ringing in my ear and formation of an ether orb begins. Use absorption. Skill. Plunder. Upgrade. Divine. Yes. No. Kill confirmed. Reward. 0.4103 low-quality ether. Add to crown pool. Yes. No. I press yes on both, gaining another divine grade skill and more ether toward this avatar's pool. None of the fights really seem worth it as we walk another 10 kilometers toward the pulsing light that signifies a safe zone. More and more of our terrain is mapped out, and far more trolls begin popping up. I kill 3 more, bringing my avatar's pools over 16 low-quality ether. Some of the trolls with more than 1 crown filled grant more ether than ones that have less. I come to the educated assumption that each crown on the 4th class lords are worth 2.5 low-quality ether. We even get another dead soul weapon shell in the form of a long spiked mace. However, even after learning this, there isn't much more to explore in these woods. The frequency of the mushrooms and colorful flowers begins to dwindle, and less water and swamplands form around us as we continue to walk. The biome we're in slightly changes every few hundred meters we travel. The wet ground turns hard like a rocky mountain terrain, and the green becomes thicker and darker. A temperature and humidity shift can even be felt, as the air smells like pine trees and fresh, earthy dirt, rather than the sour swamplands behind us. The feeling of sharp eyes watching me hits my senses all of a sudden but fades away as soon as it comes. Ava and I share mental notes as she felt it too, but neither of us are worried that anything can harm us in these parts. We just keep walking forward into this new mountainous region. We don't stop or change our path at all, heading straight ahead. A few 4th and 5th class wolves in packs of 3 to 10 cross our paths. But since I had all the fun in the swamps, Ava fights off any packs of wolves that attack us. Every time we stop for Ava to collect the ether from her kills, that faint feeling of being watched from far away comes back. I could easily spread my senses and find it, but playing with these 5th class limitations has become kind of fun. I still have the inner reflexes of a high noble, so my instincts and reaction time are far greater than anything in this whole construct. But having to limit my aura and only see things in a small, restricted slice of this map is exciting. The eyes that watch us come closer, and from varying directions every time we stop to collect more ether. Ava is quite unbothered, keeping the small nuisance at the back of her mind, but after about 5 kilometers of trekking through this new biome, it's pretty much all I'm paying attention to, as it stays just out of my field of view behind us every time. Then, my attention is captured by something else entirely as we walk down into another valley, blindly following the map toward where the safe zone light is lit. The sound of humanoid voices travels through the air. There must be other adventurers like ourselves out here. Chapter 795. Hey Zayden, do you really think it's even out here? Maybe the bounty monster just left for the swamplands or something. No way, Togi. Boss is never wrong. He said he smelled it. It's out here, we just have to keep looking. 2 voices chat back and forth, with slow and almost goofy-sounding mannerisms. But a rougher and more focused voice cuts through their lazy words. Shut up. I can hear you. We're certainly not going to find it with you two making all this noise. This, and 4 sets of footsteps coming toward us, is what I hear. Ava has sensed them for quite a while but didn't think they were a threat, sending me a telepathic message now once she sees my eyes perk up. 3 third-class lords and 1 fifth-class. Nothing special, but I guess they are the first intelligent life we've found out here. Right, maybe they know how far away the safe zone is. We walk forward in silence as the party of adventurers appears in my vision through the thick trees about half a minute later. 3 pairs of 3 crowns hovering above heads hit my vision first. 2 of the lords have one of their crowns full, while the taller and larger one behind them has 2 out of 3 in bright white. Without even making out their races, I can tell that the one in the back has had a physical ranked-up transformation like Ava, meaning it's most likely over level 10,000. It even has a true core in its chest, while the other 2 do not. The corners of my lips curl up once they notice we're here too, and their leader yells out in a loud and commanding voice, "This is the Eden Forest. You're trespassing on my hunting ground. Kneel or die." I roll my eyes and keep walking forward at a steady pace, getting a good view of what this hunting party really looks like. They're wolf men. Extremely strong and vicious-looking, actually. I've fought some werewolf creatures as mutants from wolf dungeons in the past, but the sight before me makes things look so real. They have the heads of wolves, with sharp eyes, white teeth, pointed ears, and gray-silver fur. Yet their bodies are muscular like a hairy berserker. The 2 smaller wolf men that clearly follow their leader are about 4 meters tall. One holds a spear, and the other a massive heavy axe. Their leader stands over 7 meters tall, close to Ava's height, and has half a dozen long black blades strapped all over his body. His left eye is cut out, with an old white ether wound glowing in its place. All of them have lightweight dark black armor covering their vitals, though their boss doesn't draw his weapon. He stands confidently with his arms crossed and yells out again once he sees we aren't stopping. "Come on, we have 3 third class and you have 1. Making things difficult here is only going to end badly for you. Empty your storage systems of their loot and kneel to say you're sorry, and I'll let you pass to the safe zone." He shows more of his sharp white teeth, but neither of us budges again. Though my eyebrow does raise once I see what the 4th member of their crew looks like. It's a 5th-class lord, with 5 bright white full crowns above its head. When I look their way, we're at eye level, as this adventurer seems to be human and slightly shorter than me. However, I'm having trouble believing it's really a human. With white eyes, pale skin, and white hair that is cut short at its shoulders. This is certainly not the features of any normal human I've come across lately. Its thin and frail stature, slightly covered up with standard green basic-grade armor, does not accentuate any muscle mass or show any curves for me to even make any assumptions about its gender. The being's facial features look feminine, but at the same time, this could just be a young boy. It gives me a docile glance, but I feel much more wisdom behind its eyes than it's showing on the surface. We both look away from each other, and my focus shifts back onto the wolfman yelling orders at us. Ava and I come to a halt about 40 meters in front of the group, beneath the cover of large trees on all our sides, but with nothing in between us but a few boulders and small shrubs. It's basically an open clearing compared to the dense forest terrain we've been moving through for almost an hour. No way! We were dropped here from the outside a few hours ago without an explanation or any direction. It's not like we wandered into your forest on purpose. We're off to the nearest safe zone. Either tell me where it's at, or get out of my way before you regret it. Ava replies, matching the arrogant wolf's tone with a grin. I can hear the wolfman's teeth grinding as he points forward. If there wasn't fur covering his face, it'd be red as he yells. "Kill her, boys. I gave you a chance, but you do not know how to respect the king of these woods." I let out a sigh as Zayden, the spear wielder, and Togi, the axe-carrying tank, charge forward with obedience in their eyes and nothing else. I confirm that the slow, goofy-sounding voices I heard before must have been them. Ava runs forward, reaching her hand into her ether storage, and pulls out the dead soul weapon of the first troll I killed. She uses one of the fake pre-built pairing commands I made in her avatar casing, but in reality, she's just pushing small amounts of her real ether into the black blade. In the troll's grasp, it was a sword, but in Ava's, it's a small dagger that glows a dim white. Though it's more than enough to do what she wants. 2 clashes echo through the woods, blocking and deflecting both the spear and axe's incoming attacks pointed at her vitals. I cross my arms, mimicking the boss wolfman behind them, amused that Ava just wants to toy with them. The sound of her knife clanging against the axe and the spear rings over and over as the three of them brawl in the center of the clearing. Every time the two wolfmen think they're about to finish the fight once and for all, Ava spins out of the way or perfectly deflects what looks like a near-death shot. This, compounded with the fact that I'm mocking him with an identical stance, makes the already mad boss lose it. You think you can survive this? I already told you I run these woods. Your third-class lord is barely keeping up with my men, and you think you can best me? A laugh comes out of his mouth next. You know what? I'm getting impatient. I'll target your weakness and get this over with now. You can't protect your human and keep fighting at the same time. Can you? He pulls a black blade from his waist and turns his gaze to meet mine, then follows this line of sight with the tip of his sword. Ava doesn't even flinch at the fact that he's threatening to take out her unguarded fifth-class travel partner, and this makes him even angrier. Mana and divine threads start to cycle through his body while he charges up some kind of buff, but I keep my arms crossed and eyes on the fight between Ava and the wolfmen, looking uninterested in his threat as well. The boss loses any composure he still had and runs forward at me, yelling, "New lords never give me the respect I deserve. I'm the king of Eden Forest." His strides are quite fast and his sword strike is precise. My guess that he was over level 10,000 is certainly correct. A fifth-class lord like myself should never stand a chance against a true core triple-ranked-up third-class lord like this, so I have to get creative. I decide to turn toward his sword coming down on me with just milliseconds left before it would come down on my forehead and slice a weak human lord in half. So I twist my body to the side and avoid the attack entirely, faster than the wolfman can see. Though instead of making it look like I've made a perfect dodge, I leave a bit of mana infused with divine threads behind and wrap it in a small veil of light magic. What the wolfman feels and sees as he follows through with his strike is me narrowly dodging and losing my left arm. I spread a veil of light magic over my real left arm as well, creating the illusion that it's gone. I do not imbue any ether into the movements, as the only ones I'm trying to fool here are the lords around me. I'm certain the ether commands in the surrounding woods can easily see through this facade, but it needs to be believable that a fifth-class lord could pull this off. While having two combat magic elemental skills awakened is rare, it is still a plausible awakening for a human. Internally, I grin, but outside, I put on the act of being in pain while stepping back from the wolfman, who lets out an even louder laugh than any of his others. Not bad for a human, you actually survived a single hit. His teeth grind with delight while peering over to Ava as she playfights with his underlings. Looks like your protector can't do a thing about it either. She doesn't even care that you're about to die. He raises his pointed snout to the sky and laughs, coming my way and lunging forward again. I'd planned to draw this out even longer for my entertainment, but I feel the sharp gaze that was following me earlier return. It isn't just watching this time. It's moving forward extremely fast and right at my back. My heart jumps with even more excitement once it comes within my aura, and I can actually get a good view of the black-scaled serpent with two bright white crowns floating above its head. It's slithering through the tops of the trees with an open mouth and a bright red tongue waving back and forth, ready to have a meal. With this creature coming toward my back and the wolfman's blade plunging toward my chest, I decide to let nature finish this battle for me instead of staging my own far more statistically unlikely victory as a fifth-class lord in disguise. Chapter 796. The wolfman's sole weapon stays on track for my chest, and his angry gaze doesn't leave me, his target. This makes me scan my surroundings one more time and find that the serpent slithering through the trees toward my back is actually very well hidden, using a stealth skill. My baseline senses are far too advanced to register this, and it just appears normal to me once it enters the small aura I've been letting out. Even better, I think to myself while twisting my body and faking getting hit in the lower stomach by the attacker's blade. Light magic mirages of my avatar's cracking and a horrible wound opening up in my side are what the wolfman sees, and he laughs again, far louder. He lunges forward again and lands another fake hit, slicing off what looks to be my right leg. You sure are a lucky one. A shame. Such a nimble human could have been quite the tool. Now die. That annoying sound of the wolf's teeth grinding can be heard echoing in my ears as he closes the gap again. His body starts to shimmer white as a skill activates, increasing his speed many times over. I would be racking my brain for more ideas on how to dodge in style, but in the very same movement, I sense the black serpent's eyes finally lunge out from hiding in the treeline. It doesn't unveil its stealth cloak, but it does release a wave of intimidation that paralyzes the entire battlefield. Well, almost the entire battlefield. My eyes subconsciously track its location right before it releases this wave, and somehow that pale human that has been watching my fight this whole time reacts to the disturbance just as fast. The white-haired, white-eyed human takes a single step back, and its entire body disappears into a veil of light magic, just like what I'm using now. Ava's voice rings in my inner ear as the wave of intimidation hits us, and we share a mental back and forth within a few milliseconds to come up with the perfect plan. Neither of us is weak enough to actually be affected by this mental attack made from pure mana and divine threads. Having millions of low-quality ether in our true ether pools negates anything like this without even having to try. Unfortunately for the others on the battlefield, having ether inside the avatars that do not link to the Lord's true being, no matter how much it is, does not block this mental attack without preparation. This is clear to see when all three of the wolfmen freeze in place, unable to function, paralyzed with fear. Instead of killing them both on the spot, Ava smirks and kicks both frozen wolfmen with white, blank eyes in the chest, making them fly backward and hit trees about 30 meters away, right beside where the frail human disappeared. Me, on the other hand, I pretend to be affected by the wave of intimidation just like the wolfmen, aiming my fall to hit a nearby rock jutting out of the ground, pretending to use this momentum to fly out of the way. The boss with blades all over its body watches me fall, its pupils still managing to track me, but its body frozen in paralysis from the effects of a divine-grade intimidation wave hitting him. The black serpent continues to lunge downward, aiming its open mouth at the frozen, energy-rich target in front of it. However, I begin to see the wolfman's arms and legs twitch, and its grip on the blade in its hand tighten. A ranked-up buff is activated, and an even more intense white aura of mana and ether, commands only found on premium avatars, activates. It takes a step forward, then lets out a crazed laugh, moving its gaze up toward the snake and grinning even wider. There you are. I knew my nose wouldn't deceive me. We've been hunting for your bounty all. But his words are cut short. Although impressive that he broke out from this second-class monster's mental attack, this wolfman has forgotten that I'm the one he's fighting. I grin and release a wave of my own intimidation through the ground, completely concealed by the trails of artificial blood and avatar fragments that appear to be debris from my wounds. The wolfman's eyes go blank again, and he's frozen in utter horror. A mental attack magnitudes higher than this small snake's just melted his psyche, and he cannot move a muscle or even think another thought. There's just a loud crunch that echoes through the clearing as the enormous black serpent bites down on the wolf and breaks half the bones in his body in a single chomp. I grin inwardly while falling to my back, faking my injuries and shock further as I watch Ava jump into action. She leaves her position where she thrusts the two younger and dumber wolfmen out of the fight and jumps up into the air, still using the small knife we took off the troll. Her movements match the speed of the snake's strike, and she imbues the blade with enough ether to slice through its scales. Zigzags of green and white light streak through the air, paired with uplifted rocks and dirt that the flailing snake turns up. Gash marks cover its flesh, and black scales of avatar fragments go flying everywhere. It only prompts the wild beast to let out more intimidation and clamp down on the prey already in its mouth. Ava's swift blade strikes paired with the whimpers of a wolfman being mutilated further, and a hissing snake that can't locate what's attacking it are the only things that can be heard in the chaos. To not be crushed by the flying debris, falling trees, and massive boulders being flung out from the ground, I get up off the ground and put on quite the amusing act. I use some of my divine foresight perks to make things even easier, but mostly just my normal perception, as this mock fight Ava is putting on is nowhere near a high level. Using the cover of a 5th-class human that has been thrown into a battlefield with a shaky psyche under the pressure of intimidation attacks, I fake an uneven drunken stagger and trip from rock to rock, spinning around uprooted trees and dodging falling boulders dozens of times. During this fake dance with fate, I realized that the demonic beasts beneath Ellipsia were far stronger than this serpent. It only clicks now that this is because the Grand Citadel's avatar edits for the wilderness don't account for additional worlds as buffs. All of the wild monsters we've faced so far are using their unaided natural strength. So, watching Ava tear through the serpent's flesh, I can tell she's really holding back as well. Though, once I'm within range of where we plan to end this fight, she smirks and slices the serpent in half, letting its head, still clamped down on the wolfman, fly my way. A ripple of earth beneath the falling monster sends me flying up in the air with it, and Ava throws her dagger through the air my way. When I catch it, it looks like a long sword, almost my full height. I grin back and thrust it downward, landing on the serpent's head, stabbing it right between the eyes, and in turn, stabbing and shattering the true core of the wolfman struggling to survive trapped in its mouth. A loud thud shakes the torn-up clearing, which has nearly doubled in size from all the fallen trees. But I'm more focused on the notifications ringing in my mind. Use absorption. Skill, extreme speed. Upgrade, divine. Yes. No. Use absorption. Skill, intimidation. Upgrade, divine. Yes. No. Use absorption. Skill, stealth. Upgrade, divine. Yes. No. Kill confirmed. Reward, 60.0993 low-quality ether. Add to crown pool. Yes. No. Kill confirmed. Reward, 971.5608 low-quality ether. Add to crown pool. Yes. No. I press yes on everything and let go of the blade once the kills are confirmed, just as the dust and debris fall away. Then, I just sit on top of the dead serpent's head while Ava walks over, satisfied with our performance. Behind her, I see the two wolfmen she was fighting sitting up against a large tree, their eyes wide open in shock. Beside them, the pale-skinned human's glimmering light magic disguise dissipates to make it appear again, and it stares right at me with a suspicious glare. "B-boss?" The axe-wielder named Togi yells as he gets up from the ground. His partner runs after him with an equally confused expression on his face. But Ava turns around, pausing her advance my way to cross her arms and grin, looking down at the two clueless wolfmen. "Hey, I thought we were fighting. Those were your orders, right?" At the same time, the dead serpent's jaw loosens, and the dead corpse of their leader slides out, devoid of energy. Just a shell of his former living self, with knives strapped all over an avatar casing. Both the wolf and the snake start to dissolve into the open air as Togi and Zayden try to process what is going on. They don't really seem sad, or scared, or angry. A look of confusion is all that shows on their faces. Then all of a sudden, they both perk up and look at Ava. "New boss." "Yeah, we don't have to fight anymore, big boss lady." The axe wielder looks past Ava toward me and points. "And big boss lady's partner, Lucky." I open my mouth but don't say a word in the confusion. Ava slaps her forehead with an open palm as the two wolves look at her with puppy eyes. But the awkwardness is interrupted by the white-haired human before she can get a chance to decline their offer. "Lucky indeed." The pale human takes a step forward and only looks at me. It doesn't seem very bothered by the display of strength or the chaos that just went on here. My eyes move back up to the 5 crowns, all completely full, hovering above its head once another response leaves the strange human's lips. "You were headed to the safe zone, right? I'd be happy to show you the way." It walks closer, and all I do is nod while the avatars below me dissolve and I slowly fall down to the ripped-up ground. There is something quite unsettling about this human, and its next words don't make it any more trustworthy. "You can stop faking those injuries now too. I can see right through them. You're just wasting your mana." Chapter 797. The demonic servant at entry point 021458 closes up the ether commands that give entry into the citadel, but the twisted grin on his face doesn't leave. The servant stands at the ready, monitoring thousands of other lords he's sent down into the wilderness. many of which are intelligent beasts he's categorized and sent to agreed-upon regions with similar crown levels and suitable environments. Usually, unintelligent beasts stay with their own, within the biomes they've been sent to. However, intelligent lords often wander. These demonic guards, especially the first-class guards, have a small amount of control over the environment in the wilderness. Certain beasts can be manipulated to hunt targets or keep unstable biomes in line until more lords are sent in to keep the population regulated. Though a bit of chaos is necessary, the servants don't interfere much more anymore, other than choosing where to send the lords that wander from Mensa and Ellipsia. This is an important choice because a small fraction of crown experience gained by the lords entered into the wilderness is granted to the servant that sent them down as a referral bonus. While a demonic servant wouldn't normally think twice about a random 5th-class human and 3rd-class goblin, a small interference in its tracking system upon entry into the construct makes the servant pull up his system with interest. It initially programmed these 2 rogue lords from Ellipsia to be sent to a tame zone in the wilderness, where other humans and goblins were mostly sent. Yet, a fluctuation in the 3rd-class goblin's avatar rerouted their path. After checking and confirming that it was only about 45,000 kilometers off from where the demonic servant initially meant to send them, it decides to leave it be. The diameter of the wilderness is over 1,000,000 kilometers, and if one were to walk the outer ring of this construct, it would be a perfect circle almost 5,000,000 kilometers long. In the servant's mind, such a small defect does not matter, especially for such low-class lords. But following protocol, the glitch is sent in for manual review. Meanwhile, I watch the pale human with long white hair down to its shoulders walk toward me. Its last words still replay in the back of my mind. "You can stop faking those injuries now too. I can see right through them. You're just wasting your mana," while getting found out isn't what I planned on doing. This makes things even more interesting. I grin and deactivate the illusions of my injuries while the final remains of the ether orbs from these beasts are absorbed, and their avatars fade away. All that's left around me on the ground are 7 varying-sized blades. 1 from the troll I killed earlier and 6 from off the boss Wolfman's corpse. To my other side, a single black scale glows with green divine threads and a small amount of white ether. While I was planning to flail to the ground to continue my act, I land on my feet instead, completely unscathed from the various fake near-fatal wounds, and stare back at the strange human with an equally untrusting glare. "You can see through my trick and dare tell me? You don't fear you'll face the same fate as your leader?" I send a mental note to Ava to let this human walk by, and she turns away, back to the 2 wolves that stare up at her like she's their mom. The pale human's eyes dart back and forth, noticing that I'm interacting with Ava based on our facial features shifting, but it keeps a straight face and stares at me while walking right past the 2 wolf men, then shrugs. "I know you saw me hide before the serpent attacked, and we used the same light magic technique. It would be more suspicious for me not to point it out, don't you think?" While there is a hint of truth to this human's words, I probably wouldn't have mentioned it. However, framed like this white-haired lord does make sense. "That is true, but you're only a 5th-class lord, and I do not even sense a true core in your chest. You should not have the reaction speed to do what you've done. Just because you've brought attention to yourself doesn't make it any less suspicious." Before I finish speaking, the Lord stops right before me and places out a hand for me to shake. This story originates from Royal Road. Ensure the author gets the support they deserve by reading it there. I sense nothing but positive intentions coming from you too. And if you decide to change your mind, I am powerless to stop you. The logical thing for me to do is make an alliance. Please do allow me to show you the way to the safe zone. I stare down at its small, feminine-looking white hand, and even more confusion falls over me. The look in this lord's eyes is still tight, like a predator staring at an opponent trying to find weak spots. Yet at such close range, my purple barrier picks up on the sensation of fear, dread, anxiety, and, for some reason, loneliness. Well, I sure don't sense anything positive coming off you. I murmur while reaching out to grab the 5th-class lord's hand, then waste no time in spreading a wave of perception through it. Its white eyes widen with shock once it feels my unfathomably dense mana control probing around in its body, expertly avoiding every single ether command and avatar setting. though my own eyes widen once I see what's behind this lord's confidence and advanced perception. A bright LV. 42,660 and Supreme Light Summoning hit my consciousness, along with a single ranked-up buff, Light Elf's Eternal Curse, that makes this lord's appearance even more confusing. Though this level being so high does answer my questions about how a non-true chord lower-class lord had the reaction speed to watch my fight and hide from the serpent. That still doesn't answer my questions of where its other two buffs have gone, as it's ranked up 3 times, but these thoughts are pushed aside once a warm feeling starts to appear in my senses as I dig deeper. It is extremely similar to the aura I've felt coming from all of my generals and Zacian the Berserker, but it most closely resembles the sweet and inviting aura that comes off Ava. Even the purple ring on my finger that makes contact with this lord's skin vibrates upon contact for a second. However, before I can get any conclusive evidence, the small human pulls its hand back with a scared look and heightened heartbeat. I throw both hands up and smile dismissively, now fully invested in seeing what or who this lord really is. At first, I was considering killing it to upgrade my light magic and moving on with my search for the safe zone. But now I know this is no ordinary adventurer. A wave of telepathy is sent through a small amount of mana I've released into the air. I was just making sure you weren't out to kill me. Well, I guess I'm still not sure. But I've decided I don't care. I tighten my gaze again and put down my hands, and the Lord stares at me, emitting even more fear but keeping a collected facade on the outside. If not for my purple ring, I wouldn't be able to read its emotions. It pushes out its own probing aura of perception my way for a full 5 seconds. I even feel premium avatar commands using system inspection tools activate. I let it invade the fake avatar I've created around me and give it amusingly low stats, below level 500, with light and fire magic summoning both at the unupgraded rank as my only skills. This only puzzles it further, and a weak response comes back. I'm Ren. You can call me Jay, I reply, but after a small nod, Ren's head turns backward fast. Loud footsteps are coming our way, but it's just Ava with a mix between an annoyed and an amused look on her face, with the 2 wolfmen following close behind at attention, looking like her personal bodyguards. So it looks like we're not killing them, she bellows out, then throws her own hand out to shake. I'm Ava. Ren hesitantly shakes the massive green hand but is relieved that another aura of invasive energy doesn't wash through her again and replies as they step back from each other. You can return them to the pack once we get to the safe zone if you want. The Lord's eyes dart to my side, where the leftover scale of the serpent rests on upturned earth, and I respond by mentioning it to Ava. Looks like we have a guide straight to the safe zone then. Let's pick up this loot. I think their boss said there was some kind of bounty on that snake. Then, I start picking up the swords by my side one by one while Ava walks over and picks up the single scale. I can tell Run is even more shaken now that neither of us are reacting like this is a big deal, talking like they are allies and not enemies that just tried to kill us. The white-haired lord musters out another reply in a weak tone. Yes, there was a bounty. That second-class beast was eating a large amount of the wolf population over the last few weeks. If we bring it to the adventurer's hub, if you do, they will reward you, even though you killed. Ren's eyes stay on the swords where the boss died. No. The serpent was taken out by the brave sacrifice from the king of Eden Forest, you mean? I cut this pale human off and smirk, handing all 7 of the blades up to Ava as she stores them all in her ether storage. Oh right, that's what happened then. Ren gulps, and the 2 wolfmen behind Ava repeat my words as fact, as they did not have keen enough eyes to see what really happened. Old Boss sacrificed himself to save the pack. His nose never lies. He sure did. Old Boss saved our lives and killed the beast. I nod and cross my arms, pointing my gaze off in the direction where the partially filled-in map shows the safe zone's position. Well, no more wasting time. I'm ready to continue walking. How far is the safe zone off anyway? This map makes it look like it's right in front of us. But then again, it looked like this 2 biomes ago. Run takes a deep breath in and out, then turns where I'm pointing and starts walking like my wishes are direct orders that must be followed. It's just at the edge of the forest, around the backside of the Eden Mountains. It borders 2 other territories. It should be less than a 2-hour walk from here. Ava responds as we all begin to follow, moving out of the clearing where the destructive facade of a powerful display took place. Oh, so we're already basically halfway there. How do the exit commands work? Is there a special platform or avatar update we get once we get there? I don't see any pop-ups for it on my system like that guard promised. She starts scrolling through her system, and her eyebrows scrunch. Actually, now that I mention it, that timer for the fighting event is gone. My attention is captured too, and I check my subconscious to see Ava is right. That 7-day timer is completely gone. Then, Run replies to Ava in a shaky tone. Wait, you two are actually new lords here? You really still believe it's possible to leave the wilderness? Chapter 798. Ava's eyebrows raise with surprise and understanding. After spending years of her life trapped beneath Ellipsia in the exile zones, it's only natural the Grand Citadel would make something similar. It would be illogical to miss out on so much profit. Though she is still in the dark about how exactly profit is made. And so am I. So, she replies back, yeah, I was serious. We arrived here at the Grand Citadel just a few hours ago. What do you mean we can't leave? Is there some kind of quota we need to hit, like filling these crowns? Well. The white-haired lord pauses but keeps moving forward at a steady pace. Ren's head stays down as they walk forward, and I decide to speed up and place a hand on this frail lord's shoulder. The increased feelings of confusion, shock, fear, and oddly enough, a tinge of hope rush through me. But I'm not here for comfort. I'm here for answers. A secure telepathy link is created just like before. No one can hear us now. Please do explain. Why can't we leave? Was everything that demonic guard told us a lie? I'm already pretty convinced I know the answer, but I'm curious what this lord has to say. Ava's mind can be felt patiently awaiting a response in our 3-way link as we continue forward. The 2 wolf men that trail behind us wear smiles and march without a care in the world, looking left and right occasionally when there is movement in the woods. However, Ren doesn't reply for quite a while. With wide eyes, this lord doesn't understand what's going on, as we're taking the fact that we're trapped here with such nonchalance. The fact that my mana control is touching the lord's true being again, giving off a density it didn't even know was possible to obtain, causes sweat to start forming on the pale forehead beside me. Yes, it was probably all a lie. Well, the thing is, I don't know. I don't have any memories before entering this place. And every new lord I meet either dies to another eventually or goes in for an avatar upgrade after completing a crown cycle. Ren gulps, and my gaze tightens on the 5 full crowns floating right in front of my vision. So then, what's so bad about completing a crown cycle? Aren't you eligible for an upgrade? Ava replies. The white-haired lord's head shakes, and beneath the long hair, I notice pointed ears. It surprises me, and a larger-than-normal burst of my mana control flows through our contact point, making my hand slightly shift to touch my purple ring to Ren's skin again. It vibrates with a familiar feeling. This sudden questioning, paired with this strange resonance, lets another warm burst of that familiar aura from deep down inside the Lord, the one that felt kind of like Ava's, come out. It's far stronger than before, so much so that I even get a flash of memories from it that are not my own. They seem to be going in reverse, starting at the battle Ren witnessed today, then moving back to dozens of other ventures out into these woods and nearby biomes, hunting wild beasts with many random parties of lords. I even see the exact location of the safe zone just past the high mountains in the distance where we're traveling. The visions get less high definition and more convoluted the further back I see. But I can tell this lord has been wandering for months, or actually years, maybe far longer than that. I see tens of safe zones, battles, and adventurers within this wilderness fly by, as it looks like this lord has been moving around in a circle around the entire construct for as long as it can remember. Everything gets fuzzy and hard to make out, very similar to the fractured memories I watched from Celia in her construct. But one moment in time stands out to me. This white-haired lord sits at the edge of a lake hundreds of years ago, looking down at itself with wide eyes, repeating a few phrases. Never turn in your crowns. Always keep moving. Wait for his return. Over and over, the image of this elf, with even longer hair than it has now, but its 5 crowns still bright white, is all I see. Then, the flash of memory stops, and I come back to reality to hear Run repeating these words now in a state of shock as we're walking forward. Ava, being so closely linked to us via telepathy, witnesses some of these flashes too, but the only one to feel the depth of emotions that have moved by is me. Through my ring, which continues to vibrate and resonate with the frail lord, I retract my mana control, as I've subconsciously dug too deep. This jolts Ren back to a conscious state again, stopping the mindless murmurs. Yet, I don't know if they realized I've seen what I did. Ren's voice becomes far less shaky, as though something within them reset. The Lord becomes slightly more distant, and the same analytical eyes that were watching me during the fight between the Wolfman and the Serpent return. Even the strong emotions flowing through this body are suppressed once a reply comes out. I seriously don't know. I just know the creators of this dome are using beasts and lords to collect ether. Or, I don't know, refine it somehow. At the safe zones, there are places where you can have your crown cycle collected, though I've never done so myself, for personal reasons. Now I'm quite certain Ren doesn't know I peered into their mind. Then again, the Lord I'm looking at now feels like a robot in comparison to who I was looking at moments ago. With all the stress from the fight, and now the constant questioning, I decide to pick my hand up entirely and sever the telepathic link before I take this too far too quickly. You know what? The demons have taken over the upper realm anyway. It would make sense they would create a sanctuary for lords to continue living on in a controlled environment, but exploit them to the max while they're at it. I reply out loud, ready for anyone listening to hear. It's common knowledge in Ellipsia, even for lower-class lords, that the demons rule this zone. So if any of them are listening in now, my nonchalance about the situation could easily be construed as acceptance that humans are powerless to demons. If I've learned anything from my dealings with demons so far, it's that they are suckers for an ego boost. Ava adds to the shift in tone as we walk further with a shrug. I wonder if they're going to show the fighting events live from the safe zones. If we're not going to be teleported there, I'd still like to see what the strongest lords of the zone look like in a fight. She turns around, and the 2 wolfmen repeat her words, asking about the fighting event and if they can see it too. Ren continues forward in silence as I ponder what I've seen and just heard. The slow drip of ether from within the outer fake avatar that now holds over 1,000 low-quality ether from killing the Wolfman and the Serpent has made the pull from my stores into my crowns even faster. A small visible white glow can be seen on the bottom of one of the 5 gray crowns above my head. It makes everything click, especially after the long training session I had beneath the sea of corruption. Using my ether stores to such incredibly high demands and refining tens of millions of low-quality ether per day, while using up millions in just hours to break the seals around Seraphel's body, certainly refined the low-quality ether within my stores. While it isn't up to the purity and smoothness of medium-quality ether, I can certainly tell the difference in the purity of my pool since the first few days I absorbed barely refined ether from dead ether stones. Ether loses its purity when not being constantly used by living beings. That is why the majority of the ether in the vast galaxy has settled to the lower realm, in its completely unrefined state, as chi. While my full ether sense is not activated to do a proper scan, given the knowledge I've just gained, I have a pretty well-educated guess of what's going on here. Whoever, or whatever, created the Citadel is using it as an ether refinement farm. Even ether resting within the consciousness of lords, like the warlords from Ellipsia, given enough time and used, can regress. So, if enough ether is circulated through millions of living beings within this dome, it can stay fresh or even refine further. These speculations and theories are what rush through my mind as we travel further into the wilderness. While any normal lord in my shoes, understanding that they've been tricked into the largest honey trap in the green zone of the upper realm, would be cursing their fate, I have to hold in the pure excitement building up inside me of a mystery unraveling. It would be quite odd to have a wide smile plastered on my face right now after learning that we are trapped inside this citadel. We pick up the pace and trek through the final stretches of the dense forest. Many packs of wolves come by to attack, but Zayden and Togi fight them off. Some run away, but others are more persistent. The spear and axe wielder don't have a problem killing their own kind when they are vicious and unreasonable, it seems. I don't really care to ask about the balance of intelligent and beast-like life on wolf race worlds, but Ava does bring it up in their small talk while we walk. Neither of the two know the answer, as apparently, they both leveled up high enough to rank up for a second time in these very woods, and were once unintelligent beasts just like these wolves around us. Hate to break it to you, but you two still might be unintelligent beasts. I whisper under my breath as we near the edge of a cliffside at the edge of the forest, between two mountain peaks. Just because they're following Ava as their leader now doesn't mean I've forgotten that they tried to kill us earlier. If they can switch up that fast, I don't trust that they're loyal to us now, but I'm sure they'll be useful tools. Ran is the only one close enough to hear my rude remark, but doesn't react and just points downward, where a cold breeze rushes up at us. I see the edge of a new biome to our far left, covered in a light blanket of snow, and far off to the right behind the other peak, the beige coloring of what looks like a desert comes into view as well. In the center of all three, a thick layering of ether commands can be visibly seen. The minimap in my subconscious updates to connect what's in front of us, finally noting the exact location of the safe zone. Chapter 799. We walk down toward the safe zone appearing below us, linking the border of three biomes, and the air pressure shifts in very odd patterns. The earthy air from the mountainous forest region mixes with the cold air from the snow biome, but it is completely thrown off by the dry and hot air from the desert. The safe zone itself is no larger than 2 kilometers wide, with countless dense white strands of ether protecting it from the outside. My unaided eyes can't see through it from here, but as we get closer, my natural aura can understand the tightly packed commands a bit better. I can tell it's some kind of barrier, like within the exile zones, to keep certain lords out and let others in. Ren doesn't slow down and walks right into the shimmering white barrier. As I walk through right behind, I feel the outer shell of an avatar I've created react with this shimmering wall of ether commands, and a notification rings in my inner ear. Welcome to Safe Zone 022089. Trade Center. Dining and Lodging. Adventurer's Hub. Crown Cycle Lab. Arena. When I hover over these options in my mind, more tabs and information about each open up, yet my attention is far more captured by the scene around me. Ava and the 2 wolfmen walk in right behind me, and we make our way down a wide, open road. On each side of this open road, buildings that look like they're built from the rock and trees available as resources in these mountainside and desert environments line the streets. Even the road beneath our feet seems to be made of stone and flattened naturally. Despite the outer appearance of a low-technology society, this small town is deeply saturated with ether, mana, and divine threads. My vision fills with system commands, labeling each of the buildings around me as dining and lodging, showing the ether pricing per night, and even open shops labeled Trade Center with market prices for loot most commonly collected in these 3 zones around us. 3 large buildings in the center of the zone are labeled Adventurer's Hub, Crown Cycle Lab, and Arena. They seem to be built out of a denser, foreign material. If my mind didn't move hundreds of times faster than the average 5th-class lord, I'd be having a massive sensory overload right now. From inside this small dome, the outside wilderness is completely visible like clear glass, unlike the protective shield that blocks what can be seen from the outside. There are also very subtle shifts in the ether commands on my avatar shell that connect me to this safe zone. Not only is this connection allowing me to see the prices and functions of all the shops, but a small drop of ether comes out from its external pool to create a pressure-activated ether barrier. If any attacks were to strike me now, this zone would protect me. I'm certain of it, up to at least the strength of an average 1st-class lord. I can't help but grin as we walk through the street that isn't exactly empty. A few heads turn our way, as Ava is quite the sight to see walking through these parts. There are a few wolfmen and desert lizardmen that stand up to 3 or 4 meters at most, but the Goblin Queen in our party towers over everyone else on the street. The sight of 2 small humans, myself and Ren, is out of the ordinary as well. The only other race I manage to pick out in the crowds that walk in and out from the public spaces are humanoid rabbit creatures, with large pointed horns coming out from their foreheads. It's a ranked-up transformation of a horned rabbit monster that I've never witnessed in a dungeon before. Come on, we're already standing out enough. Less staring would let us fit in more. Ren whispers to me, tilting their head toward the center of town in the direction of the adventurers' hub. We pass a few hundred lords at most while walking through. No one approaches us directly, but the amount of side eyes and whispers we get is hard to keep count of. Ren seems used to it, far more unbothered by this attention compared to the stress Ava and I put them through. Then again, if I recall the countless safe zones this lord has been through over the years, this must happen in all of them. It would make sense that societies of races tend to stay near each other. But it does internally raise the question of how or why Ava and I were sent here and not to a zone more closely related to humans or goblins. We walk into one of the 3 large buildings in the center of town, labeled Adventurers Hub. There is no physical door, but just like the barrier around the safe zone itself, we can't see inside until we enter. About 24 other lords, split up into parties of 2 to 5, all turn our way when we walk in. They all stand and sit around circular tables that line the sides of the room. Some have pop-up windows that show up in my vision, requesting party members of a certain level, class, special skill, or fighting proficiency. They even have quests and bounty rewards floating above their parties to show what they're after, mostly in the 3 biomes that connect to this zone. I see a few seeking materials from the swampland we were in earlier, and a few other biomes that I haven't seen before that must be off in other directions. The ceiling of this open hall is quite high, almost 25 meters, making our footsteps echo slightly as we walk through. Although the building itself is easily 3 or 4 times this height, meaning there must be higher floors. Yet, I don't see any stairs or elevators. The back of the room is curved, and there are 5 receptionists behind a black curved counter. 2 of them are the horned rabbit race in their intelligent humanoid forms, while the other 3 are desert lizards. Ren's footsteps speed up toward the lizard man on the far right side, and I follow with a rhythm of nonchalance in my steps, looking around, making eye contact with as many random adventurers as I can for my own amusement. Ava's eyes track the countless quests and bounties that line the free space on the walls, unclaimed and marked with time limits and payout prices in Ether or Avatar upgrade rewards all over them. Zayden and Togi awkwardly walk behind her with their heads down, and a few moments later, the 5 of us stand in front of the receptionist and come to a halt. A pair of sharp yellow lizard eyes look each one of us up and down, and the bronze-scaled receptionist speaks up, looking to Ava as she seems to be the party leader. "Not from around here, are you? The closest goblin settlement is over 70 safe zones away." Its gaze shifts down to Ren, then over to me, and stops on the 2 wolfmen before he speaks again. "I want to hear it from the locals. You're from the party that was off hunting that serpent bounty earlier with your pack leader, aren't you? What happened?" They both perk up, and Togi starts nodding excitedly, while Zayden replies to the receptionist. "That's right. The serpent bounty. Boss sacrificed himself to save us." Togi jumps in, remembering what they were chanting earlier. "Yeah. Boss killed the serpent to save the pack." The lizard man gives a grunt of approval, then begins scrolling through a list of bounties, and meanwhile, Ava reaches into her ether storage to pull out the black scale and rest it down on the counter between them. "Here's proof. That black snake is dead." She pulls one of the holographic bounties off the walls that she was looking at on the way in, then pulls 2 more seemingly random ones in front of the lizard man and pulls out all of the soul weapons we took off the trolls back in the swamp biome but leaves the blades taken off the wolfman's body in her inventory. The lizardman's eyes move faster left and right as the quest boxes begin to scan and register the loot placed under them. They make audible dinging sounds once they're complete, and the live quest boards all over the walls shift slightly to reflect the changes. Well, it appears that is the case. This was a second-class bounty request. It has a special reward sequence that I can't personally verify. I'll need to contact our safe zone admin. Please give me a moment. Chapter 800. Inside the outer wall of the Grand Citadel, a few hundred entry points away from where the 2 newest lords entered, a demonic servant receives a ping from Safe Zone 022089. Finally, that nuisance was taken care of. The servant whispers under his breath while confirming the legitimacy of the scan of the serpent scale provided. This second-class beast has been causing havoc in some of the lower-class zones for months, and routines have been posted across multiple safe zones this admin oversees. So, Confirmation is sent back into the wilderness to grant the party that took out this threat a hefty reward. The receptionist's eyes move back and forth as ether commands shift behind the counter, but it doesn't seem bothered by our appearance. While rare, having random races come through other safe zones probably does happen sometimes. All of the receptionists have 3 crowns above their heads, varying from 1 to 2 filled. They seem like normal lords just like everyone else in this town. None of the other 4 look our way, simply staring ahead, awaiting other customers to help. However, as we wait in silence, the eyes of the adventurers in the room dig into the back of my head as they stare at us, watching one of the highest-paying quests from the boards disappear. 89 days. It took quite a while for that request to be fulfilled. And it was a premium second-class payout too. The lizardman's eyes turn back to us with a bit more respect than the cold, calculative glare from before. More tapping on ether commands sounds out before strands of white light move toward all 5 of us. 100.0 low-quality ether deposit. Add to ether pool. Yes. No. 1 full Crown Cycle coupon received. Directions to Crown Cycle Lab. The reactions of Ren and Ava tell me they've received the same messages. And then Ava's avatar lights up 2 more times as the receptionist speaks again. There you go. It looks like that second-class quest reward was increased quite a few times. We usually don't give out instant avatar upgrades like that. It must have been a brutal fight. I think back to the fight. That serpent did have both of its crowns filled to the max and was a true cord beast. However, I killed it and the boss of the Wolfmen in a single strike. It's hard to gauge how strong it really was. And here are your payouts for the troll extermination quests. He adds as Ava telepathically sends me a mental image of her payouts for them, adding up to 5.0 low-quality ether in total. Thank you, she responds aloud to the receptionist, and the 2 wolf men at her sides become excited. Free Crown Cycle coupon, what's that? Togi asks, but Zayden looks over to him. Boss saved the pack and we get upgrades. We can become big like Boss. I, for one, have seen the upgrades done in Ellipsia, and know that having avatar changes doesn't alter one's physical appearance. It only gives access to more complex ether commands. A system-level rank-up is necessary for that, but I don't care enough to explain the difference. The receptionist responds to their misunderstanding in a similar way. Indeed, each of you can visit the Crown Cycle Lab to receive the next rank of your avatar free of charge. His yellow eyes track over to Rin. It looks like you could get 2 full upgrades in a single visit. This prompts me to remember the Lord's memories, staring into a lake's reflection, and one of the repeated phrases, "Never turn in your crowns," based on the heavy feeling of anxiety and fear starting to build up in the frail Lord by my side. I can tell this oath certainly still holds true, even if it's free. I grin and look toward the receptionist. What if I don't want an avatar upgrade? Can I sell this back to you for something better? The receptionist's eyes widen, and even the other 4 receptionists who were uninterested before turn my way. I can feel the intensity of the gazes on my back grow hotter, and a few people stand up from their tables. 500 ether! A lizardman's voice calls out from behind me. 600! A horned rabbit from a table on the other side of the room replies. 750! 800! 9 no 1,000! 2,000! I turn around and cut them off as more lords start chiming in, raising the price. I take that as a yes. This Crown Cycle coupon is more valuable than the serpent itself. But your ether is worthless to me. I let out a chuckle and scan the room, eyeing the 3rd and 4th class lords, along with the quests floating around them for average payouts of 1 to 2 ether for an entire party's full day of work. The receptionist's voice responds in a calm manner to the quiet room of shocked lords. It is possible to sell your coupon, but this has never happened before, especially out in a lower-class zone like this. In the wilderness, upgrading your avatar is the only way to become stronger. How could you refuse? No, why would you? I shrug, reading the gleam in this lizardman's eyes, realizing even he wants this coupon. Does it matter why? Well, no, of course not. But if ether is not what you want, then what could possibly be more valuable? I heard information could be bought and sold here. I want more data on my map to be filled in. Then I grin and look back toward the adventurers that were bidding earlier. So, whoever can bid the most biomes of our surroundings can have my coupon. It's that easy. Before I even finish speaking my offer, almost half the room rushes out of the hall, and yells from the remaining parties start up again. I have a full map of the 3 regions around us. That's all? I have 7 full biomes, all past the Rabbit's Snow Mountains. 8. I have 8 as well, but it'll come with all the data on the wild beasts and their hunting patterns. 9. I start to block out their words and place a hand on Ren's shoulder to sink into a mental link between the 3 of us. Drive the price up, then I'll offer mine next, right? Ava's words come in, and my grin grows wider. That's right. Ren doesn't speak for a moment, but eyes the door as one of the rabbit-eared receptionists on the side of the room offers 10 biomes, only to be scolded by his partner beside him. We're not allowed to make private offers while on shift. The bids are about to get much higher. The lords that left all went to the trading center to buy up as much information as they could. Just as these words hit my inner ear, a tidal wave of lords comes rushing through the front door of the Adventurers Hub, with a few familiar faces but also many new lords that weren't here before. 25 biomes, all in the surrounding area. 31. I see a few races unfamiliar to these parts pop in the door next, all of varying crown levels, 5th to 3rd. A few orcs, a humanoid red ant creature, and even a party of 4th-class humans walk through the front door, though the majority are wolfmen, horned rabbits, and bronze lizards. 55. All surrounding this area. There are connections to 12 other safe zones included. 74. 2 black zones are included, but the rest are rated safe for 3rd-class lords. The numbers keep going up, and the crowds of lords piling in don't stop for a full 2 minutes. Over 60 lords have gathered into this adventurer's hub, and it's safe to say the entire safe zone is aware something is going on. Yet, there are only 3 main bidders still spelling now, as everyone else can't compete any longer, 2 of which are lizardmen. 80 biomes, plus 3 black zone locations, but no proper data on them. The 3-meter-tall red ant lord yells out, its beady eyes staring across the room at me. Whispers fill the rest of the room as it appears no one can do better than his offer. Even the receptionists look disappointed that they don't have the means to bid higher. I step forward and nod, pulling the small white ticket packed with ether commands from my mental inventory and staring at the 3rd-class lord's visible trade request floating in the air. Deal. I do not know the market price for these coupons, but considering the bidding war that just ensued, I'm confident 80 biomes worth of data is a fair price. While I could wander around and safely find this data for free myself, I'd rather save the time and get a better vantage point of where we are right now. If it was that easy to fulfill a premium 2nd-class quest and receive this full crown cycle coupon, I'm sure it won't be hard to farm more if I end up wanting another one. Strands of white commands connect our avatars, and the trade is initiated instantly. The Ant-Man's antennae wiggle with excitement as it receives the coupon, and my subconscious floods with information about tons of territory surrounding these parts. The data seems to all be coming in a semi-straight line, from the direction of the center of the wilderness, where that demonic servant showed me a massive pillar housed the inner city. A few of the zones are blacked out just like the Lord said they were, but the ant turns around and leaves right out the door the instant the coupon hits his system. I'll be selling mine too. Same offer. I want as much information on the surrounding biomes as possible. Ava yells out loud. The crowd and the receptionist's disappointed looks immediately grow hopeful again, and another bidding war starts for her coupon. While Ava attends to the crowd, I send a telepathic message to Ren, showing my minimap in our advanced mental link and zooming in on certain biomes that do not show any data. What are these black zones that Ant Lord was talking about?